although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 126. Is that true, Eve? Rita. Bunny, does this not lie, Eve? Eve proudly puffed up her chest with pride, and her nose was pointing upwards. Was it with your previous members? Rita. Those guys. Eve. Flashback to when I first met Eve. Eve had some disagreements with her former teammates, which she wasn't too polite about it either. Right after that, she just left the team after saying, disagreement with dungeons. I think that was around the time when they cleared one of Shikaro's dungeon. But, which 5 are you referring to, Disu? Aren't there 6 dungeons now in Shikaro, Disu? Emily. Rita. There's Turaru, Silicon, Arsenic, Bismuth, Boron, and Nonium. These 6, Disu? Emily. Oh right, now you reminded me, Rita. Though I've heard of Bismuth and Boron from people's daily life stories, or from bars and taverns, but I've actually never been to these 2 dungeons before. Let's not forget about Silen too, which is now under the control of Shikaro. Rita. I've completely forgotten about that, Disu. That's right, Disu. If we count Silen in, then there's a total of 7 dungeons. Emily. Emily and I both looked at Eve's direction, and Eve answered with her usual hard-to-grasp expression. Excluding Silen and Nonium, there's 5. Silen is a no-no because it's new and far. Nonium doesn't drop anything. Eve. Ah, gotcha, Rita. But that was unexpected, Nano Desu. I thought that Eve would only stick to her carrot dungeon forever, Desu. Emily. No such thing, Eve said, and entered the room. After using the function of the room, she teleported to someplace. Where did she go, Desu? Emily. Beats me, Rita. Emily and I both restlessly waited for Eve to come back. After about 3 minutes, Eve came back. Eve-chan. Emily. Just a little more, as Eve said so and disappeared once again. What's wrong with Eve? Rita. Just now she was holding a yellow object on her right hand, Desu. Emily. A yellow object? Rita. Was she holding something like that? I tilted my head to the side, pondering about it as I couldn't remember it well as it went by so quick. After some time Eve came back again, and she teleported away again. She's gone off again, Desu. Emily. But this time I saw it as well. Her right hand was holding some yellow object, and her left hand was grasping onto a green object. Rita. That's right, Desu. Emily. Since it was only for a moment, I could not tell what she was holding. All I knew was that the first time she teleported, she had a yellow object, and the second time she teleported, she was holding onto a green object dropped from that dungeon. First yellow and now green ... So the next would be red, I guess? Rita. Why does Rita think so, Nano Desu? Emily. Well, the traffic light ... Wait, you won't know what it is, Rita. Emily tilted her head in curiosity. Come to think of it, it seemed that most traffic lights are green, but most of the time it looked blue. After waiting for a while further, Eve came back. This time the item she brought wasn't red, but was yellow. I'm back, Eve. Banana ... Nano Desu? Emily curiously said while tilting her head to the side, and Eve gently nodded. Bunny wouldn't just eat carrots, but bananas can be taken too. Eve. Why was banana your choice? Do you like banana? Rita. Normal. But bananas are now the boom. Eve. Boom? Rita. Bananas make people idiotic. Just counting the bananas would make them stupid. Eve. What in the world is this bunny even talking about? I said as I had no idea what she was trying to say. Eve then took out a bunny from within her bunny costume. It was almost as if a beautiful woman wearing a rider's suit took out something from her breast, but it was in fact just a woman wearing a bunny costume taking out a carrot. TLN, which is also sexy if you think about it. It did not have any sex appeal. Wait, maybe this was for the best. If she were to do that with her bunny suits, it won't just be her sex appeal going up, but her indecency meter would skyrocket. Eve, who took out the carrot, opened her mouth as if counting. Carrot, carrot, Banwenua, Eve. She normally counted 1 carrot ... 2 carrots ... But suddenly when she started saying banana, she had a weird expression and her voice was turned inside out. Carrot, carrot, Banwenua, carrot, carrot, Banwenua, Eve. Just as Eve said, She only looked like an idiot when counting bananas. TLN, why do I have a feeling this is referencing Aho Girls? Emily and I stared at her expressions blankly. Was Eve this kind of character? Just a joke. Eve. Alright, Rita. But it's true that banana holds the power to make human go stupid. Just eating bananas as a midnight snack would, oh my, make everyone go stupid. Eve. It's like those bad diet ad propaganda. Rita. Eve-chan, can you give me that banana nano desu? I want to use it to make a cake for everyone to eat desu. Emily. Plus carrots. Eve. Will do desu? I'll also make Eve-chan's favorite carrot cake desu. Emily. Make it half carrot half banana. Eve. Roger nano desu. Emily. Don't tell me. She doesn't just love carrots but bananas as well. Then I'll go and prepare the eggs and flour and also sugar desu. Since it's been a while, let's make a fresh and delicious cake no desu. Emily. I'll leave it to you. Rita. Eve went into the room and teleported to some dungeon again. She went back and forth several times from the room to the dungeon. She went around gathering ingredients such as wheat flour, egg, and sugar required for Emily to bake the cake. I understand where you get wheat flour and sugar, but there's also eggs? Rita. It's on the second floor of manganese that I've explored a long time ago. It's dropped by Eve. Big frog. Frogs? Rita. I received the eggs and stared at it curiously. The more I looked at it the more it doesn't convince me that it was a frog's egg. Emily then received the eggs from me and ran to the kitchen with a pitter-patter sound. Seems like we'll have a feast later. Eve, who obtained fresh ingredients quickly from the teleportation room. We finally have the power to go to any level of Shikaro. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 127. Morning. All of us were aligned while eating our breakfast together. The nobleman's mansion had a great dining hall in it, and in it was a long table placed there. I was forced to sit down at the husband's seat by everyone and the rest sat down based on democracy. It was an extremely long rectangular table and the short-sided of the rectangle. Then, I was told to sit at the short-sided area. It was reserved exclusively for me. It was sort of embarrassing, and everyone else was seating at the long side of the table, 2-person on each side. It really felt like those scenes in stories where nobles were seating at such place whilst having their meals. I suggested that we should replace the long table with a round table, but everyone stopped me from doing so. Guess I was outnumbered by them as they're forcibly pushed not to. Can't be helped, I suppose. After having my breakfast I went out, and went to the teleportation room where I was teleported to Nonium basement 6th floor. Using the absolute rock to turned into invisible mode, top it off with my repetition, I went around the floor decimating poison zombies. Today I defeated all of them using the repetition skill. Defeating them, then picking up the intelligence seed, and increased my stats. I followed my usual status farming to get the most out of it. Not just farming, but teleporting too, farming as much as I could, and after my intelligence was increased from E to D, I went back to the place where I was teleported from and touched the light spot to return back to the room. Afterwards, I went to check the time. It wasn't just Jenna and Piro that was similar, but this world's time was similar to my former world's time system. Well, the only exception was that there wasn't any concept to divide the time by A.M and P.M. It would be unified from 0 to 23. I teleported from 8 a.m. and came back at around 10 a.m. Normally I would come back around 12 p.m., which is already afternoon, after increasing my status. Having the teleportation gate and repetition made it the ultimate efficiency. Having my usual routine was a great discovery for me. During the afternoon, instead of earning money, I went to the teleportation room. I have confirmed that Eve was able to access all of the floors of Shikaro. It was an extremely convenient room, but there was one last thing that I wanted to confirm. While thinking so, I went inside the room and set my destination. Aurum, the room of Aurum. Well then, I wonder if this works. Rita. After a short time passed, the scenery around me changed. The place that I was teleported to was indeed the room of Aurum. Yep, I was able to get here. I guess it wasn't limited to just the normal floors of dungeon, but I was able to teleport to God's room, a large empty space with a girl standing in front looking bored as usual. Her height was shorter than Emily at a height of 140 centimeters, wearing her goth-like costume, and her head was growing a demon horns and the back with bat-like wings. It was Aurum Dungeon's god, and her name was as plain as it gets. Aurum. I came to play with ya, Aurum. Rita. Rio. Rita, how come you're here? Just how the heck did you get here? Aurum. Ah, so you know, Rita. The puzzled Aurum. From her words it seemed that I came in a non-canonical way. Of course I do. This entire dungeon is me, so whatever monster was defeated or how much gold was dropped, I would know all of it. Aurum. So you even knew when I defeated the rare monster and arrived here then? Rita. Yep. Aurum. But why? Was written all over her face. Anyways, don't you wanna head out? I thought of bringing you to someplace different. Rita. Going. Aurum. Aurum was really gullible. Instead of continuing to question how I came here, the fact that bringing her out was more important made her toss aside those questions immediately. I pointed my revolver on the excited girl and fired, turning her into a gold bar. After that, I carried that heavy gold bar and returned to the teleportation room, carrying her all the way to the basement floor before returning her back into a rogue monster. Where's this? This is the first time coming here. But there's nothing at all. Aurum. Aurum's face had disappointment written on it. Guess if she wanted a place that is empty, the place that she is living is exactly that. It's my home. Reason why there's nothing is exactly what the purpose of this room is for. Rita. Hey. So it's Rita's home, Aurum. If you head up then it would be different, Rita. After saying so I went up first. Aurum tagged behind me, went out with me. How? Aurum. The moment she came out of the basement, her body and mind was in awe. Though we just moved here for a few days, the entire mansion was completely dyed in the color of Emily. It was warm, bright, and a gentle mansion. A home that has Emily in it will definitely become like that. And someone that was hit by such gentleness for the first time would obviously be in awe. Seemed like Aurum wasn't an exception. This place is amazing. This place is amazing. This home is indeed amazing. Aurum. The same sentence was being repeated thrice with rhythm. The words seemed to have no content, as if her brain was shut down and her vocabulary went 404 not found because of much warmth and kindness. Hoa. Aurum. I'm glad that you like it. Makes me happy that I brought you over, Rita. Thanks. What should I do? Aurum. Should do what? Rita. Bringing me to such an amazing place. My body might not be able to live without Rita anymore. Aurum. You're exaggerating, Rita. Though I don't feel particularly bad. Seeing her happy made me happy. If I don't repay you with something. Rita. Please accept this. After Aurum thought for a moment, she took out a gold bar and handed it over to me. I then hurriedly received the 1 kilogram gold bar. This amount of gold might be worth around 3 million euros. This is my feelings, Aurum. This is normally amazing, Rita. This is the limit when leaving the dungeon, so after we return I'll give you 100x the amount, Aurum. I won't receive that much, okay? Rita. Thinking of 100 kilograms worth of gold bar was frightening. Receiving that much would be troublesome. Bringing Aurum along, we head towards the city. Though the appearance of Gothic Lily with demonic horns and wings weren't common, but there were other adventurers that were way more unusual, so it was alright not hiding it. Rather it was more problematic for me. Rita. It's about time for the festival. So I would want to order a huge sum of Rita pumpkin if possible, because I adore Rita so much that I moved from Benzine to Shikaro. Please take care of me from now on, and please sign this for me. Hey Rita, a long magic storm will come 3 days in a row for the upcoming week. I wonder if you would enter the dungeon with me. Many people were coming to talk to me when we arrived the city, since before I was talking to them while walking. But the people increased even more after Arsenic's case. I seem to have become a famous person, though I was happy, but at the same time I have this complicated feeling. After coping with the people along the way, I finally went back to Aurum, who was hanging around the city. How was it, Aurum? The city of Shikaro? Rita. It's amazing. There are lots of things that I've never seen before. Is that so, Rita? Yep. Hey, what's this? It's a bamboo copter, Rita. Bamboo copter? The bamboo copter was on sale in a general store. I see, so they have this in this world too. I paid the shopkeeper, rubbed the shaft and spun the bamboo copter, letting it fly. The bamboo copter slowly flew straight up and rotated slowly while descending. It's that kind of toy, Rita. Awesome. This is the first time seeing such things. So it's your first time, Rita? Yeah, there's a lot of first times for me. This is really an amazing city. What's wrong? Rita, over there. There's a couple on the other side of the man. I've seen them before because the two of them came to my dungeon previously. Same goes with that old man too. Orim then pointed the adventurers one after another. This is a magic cart. It's lined up neatly. We stopped right in front of the magic cart shop. Apparently she knew about magic carts as well. Well, her knowledge is completely biased, as she only knew what comes to her dungeon. Looking at that figure, and thinking of the teleportation room in the mansion, I thought of bringing Orim out more frequently. Hey Rita. Yup? Rita, I feel that from some time ago, someone has been staring at me? Staring? Rita, Orim whispered to me, who had a troublesome look. Thus I looked around. Now that she mentioned, most people in the city were looking at Orim, regardless of age, sex, occupation or status. Most of them were humans. No, 99% of humans were looking at Orim. Why though? Greater than. Even after observing them for a while, I was still not sure. It's not as though they wanted to talk to her. Everyone was just staring at Orim. They all had sparkling eyes attached. Really? Why? Hey Rita, what's that? Orim. That's a marble, Rita. Marbles? There's beautiful. I'll buy it for you, Rita. I took out some money from my pocket and bought the marbles for Orim, who had glittering eyes. Then a gold bar fell from my pocket. It was the 1 kilo gold that I received from Orim earlier. As if some sort of sound was heard, a sort of response. The fallen gold bar, and the people in the city that was staring at Orim a while ago was now fixated at the gold bar. Their eyes were exactly the same as Orim's eyes right now. So that's how it was. I got it, Orim. I knew the reason of everyone's gazes. Rita, really? Why is that so? Because everyone likes Orim, Rita. Phew. Anyone would like you. Conversely, I think there would be no one that dislikes Orim, Rita. Not from what I know. After telling Orim, she tilted her small head while crossing her arms, looking confused. I picked up the gold bar, and bought the marbles with small change. As I handed it to Orim, a young man stopped in front of her. The young man was staring at Orim straight in the eyes, with a daring face. When I first laid my eyes on you, I fell in love with you. Please go out with me. She was suddenly being confessed. What is this? What's with this, Rita? It's a confession. It's normal, Rita. A confession? Guess she doesn't understand this either. Apart from Orim's puzzled look, the young man said some more. Please become mine. So it's that. Seems like Orim came back to her sense. Guess she understood. I'm sorry. My body can't live without Rita anymore, so I can't be yours. You're gonna tell him that now. What's more, isn't that sentence really bad, Rita? It. You'll remember this. The rejected youth ran away half crying. He cried. Well, of course he would, with the way you said, Rita. Is that so? Humans are difficult beings, but that in itself is sort of interesting too. Experiencing that for the first time, Orim had a fresh look on her face. Well, what should I show her next? Anything should be a first time for her other than a dungeon, so why not show her some ordinary things? Orim suddenly cried out loud. When I turned around, I saw Orim being kidnapped. The man was wearing a mask with a hat, was carrying away Orim and was running away. It looked like a bank robber. Wait. When I shouted, I glanced at the man, who was careless for a moment. Desire. His eyes were covered with lust for money. Seemed like he knew about the gold bar in my pocket. And Orim was kidnapped because, well, she's Orim. Rio. Whoops. Now's not the time to analyze. Gotta go and help. I stepped and kicked the ground, dashing towards him. With the speed of SS, I caught up to the man in a flash and went in front. What? Hand over Orem, Rita. I pulled out my right hand and pierced his body right into his belly. While he released his grip, I held on to Orem and carried her. The man floated in the air for a moment with his body bent in a shape, then fell and spread on the ground. You got some skills, brother. You've shown me some good shit. I want to be helped like that too. When I regained Orem from that person, I was praised by everyone even when it's daytime. Moreover, how was Orem? I laid her down and looked straight into her face. You alright, Orem? Rita. Orem? Rita. What should I do? My body might not survive unless I'm with you, Orem. As I said, enough of that. Are you alright, Rita? It's not something you can just brush it off. I'm alright, okay, Orem. I see, then it's fine, Rita. Orem, TLN, Baka Rita. Just go be dense elsewhere. Orem was moaning for some time. I don't know why, but since her body seemed to be safe, I was glad. But what should I do now? Orem had gathered a crowd in the meantime, and some of Gazes had agreed. I better pull off for today. Let's go home today, Orem. I'll bring you again next time, Rita. We're already going back? Orem. Yeah, Rita. I nodded. Well, it was sort of awkward for us to return so early, but I will make up for it again after we can get out of these Gazes. Okay, I understand. If it's like that, then let me do this, Orem. This is Rita. Orem hopped onto me. She jumped on my back with her small body, and I was on a piggyback posture. Orem's body was soft and light even though she's made out of gold. This is cause it'll be tough if someone kidnapped me again. Okay, Orem. That's true, Rita. If that was the case, it can't be helped. Thus, I carried her back while protecting her. Orem held on to me tightly until we got back to the mansion, and her body heat lingered on my back. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 128. Side note, I know that the teleportation room is actually called a transportation room, but it sounded weird and teleport sounded cooler, so I chose that instead. Also, debating between vomiting and throwing up was difficult. Inside the middle of the mansion, Orem was tightly hugging me. Though she's just a small girl, but Orem's body was soft everywhere, and it made me strangely excited. Luckily, Orem was quiet for the entire journey when walking back home. If she started talking to me, she might have seen through that I was excited the entire time. Thus, somehow managing to not show my excitement, I went into the premises of the mansion and walked inside the entrance. We're here, Rita. Orem. Orem had a reluctant face when she slowly let herself down from my back. Would it have been better if I were to carry her all the way to the teleportation door? Such thoughts went through my mind. Rita-san, welcome home. Elsa came out from the back of the mansion. Hey Elsa, so you finally came, Rita. Yes, I was carrying the master lock, so I'll also be staying here from now on. Elsa, please continue taking care of me from now on too. Rita. Yes, and also about that, Elsa. Rita. I'll soon move out again. Elsa. Moving out again? Are you going to some other city? Rita. It's not like that. Elsa hurriedly placed her hands in front and shook. It's not that, it's just that the place where I'm staying currently is kinda far from this mansion, as it seemed like it would be some time that I'll be sent to Rita-san's place. So I'm going to move to a closer place from here. Elsa hurriedly explained her reasoning all at once. She was previously a staff at but due to our family's earning growing immensely, she was sent as a representative of that shop to come and help us count our earnings. Thus, the reason why she moved was because her workplace was far away. What's more, I'll be near Rita-san's side, Elsa. Rita. It's nothing. Again Elsa hurriedly shook her head as she waved her hands. I can't really hear what she'd said at the last part, but I was thinking, if that was the reason why she wanted to move, then all the more. Elsa, if you're fine with it, how about just staying here with us? Rita. Elsa, as you can see we still have extra rooms available. It's not likely that it'll be occupied for a while, so if Elsa's fine, Rita, is it really alright for me to stay here? Elsa cut my words before I could say with a delighted face. Of course, it's different if it was someone else, but Elsa is special, Rita. Special? Elsa, it's not like we're strangers or something, and you're good friends with Emily and the rest, Rita. Special. He said that I'm special. Elsa grabbed her hands and looked at me with teary eyes. How about it? Rita, please take care of me from now on. Elsa, yeah, well then. How should we deal with the rooms? Maybe it's better to ask Emily about it. Perhaps Emily had already completely dominated this entire mansion. Rita, I'll ask Emily-san about it. For now I'll bring along my luggage. Elsa, you don't really have to rush. She'd already ran off, Rita. While looking at the back of Elsa with the speed that could rival that of adventurers, she ran off like the wind. Guess she was happy about it. I'm glad. So good. I'm jealous. Rita. Aurum seemed to be talking to herself. What's wrong, Aurum? Wait, what the heck? Rita. The moment I turned around I was surprised. Aurum, who was piercing glances at me, was throwing out gold dust from her mouth. Blueeg, as the shiny gold dust slowly came out from her mouth. What is that even, Aurum? Rita. What is? Aurum. What do you mean what? You have gold saliva coming out from your mouth. Rita. What are you even saying? Was what came out from my mouth, because it was such a scene I can't help but say it. You're right, Aurum. You're right. Wait, so you didn't notice it at all? Rita. Aurum wiped the corner of her mouth with the back of her hand. The gold dust stopped coming out for now. But really? What happened to her? Are you alright? Are you not feeling well or something? Rita. She was the spirit of the dungeon, so maybe the fact that she had came out from the dungeon for a long time caused her to have symptoms. I thought that maybe I should bring her home for now. Hey Rita, that person, who's that? Aurum. That person? Oh, you meant Elsa? Rita. So that's what she's called, Aurum. Even if you asked who she is, she's a person I know from work, and also, Rita, I was suddenly reminded of the kiss scene with Elsa. It was a surprise one-time kiss. Suddenly thinking about me made my ears red and my face heating up. And then? Aurum. She's someone that took care of me when I was new, Rita. Fuan. I see. Aurum placed her hands on her cheeks and was thinking of something. Is her condition alright? Is it fine if she doesn't go back to the dungeon? As I was thinking, Rita-san. Celeste. Rita. This time it was Celeste that greeted me. Seemed that she just came back from outside as she walked inside the mansion and she was holding some sort of book and some papers. Welcome back. What's with all that stuff you're carrying? Rita. I just came back from the library. I have summarized everything about Shikaro's dungeon and their specialties. Celeste. Everything you say? Rita. Yes. Weren't we able to go to all of the floors thanks to Eve? That's how I was doing it. Celeste. So you're carrying that home to study more. Sorry for always relying on you, Rita. No. This is different. I've already memorized all of the information. These are reference books for summarizing that information. Celeste. To summarize? Rita. Yes, the Rita family often does individual activities, right? Hence a booklet, or something smaller than that, so I could hand it to everyone to review when they're going for an adventure alone. Celeste. She continued explaining. I didn't know she was that considerate of us. Thanks again, Celeste. I'll have to find some way to thank you. Rita. It's alright if you don't give me anything. It's because I love to do it, thus I'm doing it. Celeste. Yeah, but still. Rita. My lips were being touched. Celeste pressed her index finger against my lips and mischievously laughed. I love to do it, so it's okay. As she said that, she laughed again. She was originally a beautiful lady, but she was turning way more beautiful and it made me skip a beat. This person too? Aurum. Oh, that's right, Rita-san. This girl. Her mouth's leaking something out. Celeste. Celeste shouted, and had a surprised look as she saw Aurum. I too turned to look at Aurum, as she was throwing out gold from her mouth again. Aurum. You're throwing up gold again, Rita. Again Orem used her back of her hands to wipe away the corner of her mouth. Finally she stopped vomiting gold dust, and I turned to Celeste and explained. This girl's Orem. It's the spirit of Orem dungeon, Rita. So it's the same as Arsenic's spirit, Celeste. Yeah, similar to how I met her. She said that she wanted to go out, and since we had that teleportation door, I thought of bringing Orem out for sightseeing in the streets of Shikaro, Rita. That's why she was vomiting out gold, Celeste. Ah, I was surprised by that too. Previously, this never happened, Rita. What is happening to Orem? Excuse me. Another voice was heard, and this time it was a guest. The main entrance of the door opened, and Margaret and her knights were standing in front of the door. Margaret let herself in, and the knights remained outside the mansion while gently closing the door. Margaret that let herself in walked straight towards me, and smiled gracefully. Congratulations on your moving to a different house, Margaret. So you've heard about it. I wanted to inform you after everything was stable over here, Rita. As of right now, Rita family is a huge news that's being talked about in Shikaro. The gossips had already passed through my ears, Margaret. Is that so, Rita? I could not help but bitterly smiled. It was a bit frustrating to have rumors about us. This is indeed a nice mansion. It's warm and gentle. It really portrays the traits of the owner, Margaret. I am happy for that compliment, but the warmth and gentleness isn't from me but from the works of Emily, Rita. Rita-san is always so modest with himself, Margaret. After saying that, she gently brought my body with her. She did not hug me, but instead dive onto my body. Her body was small and soft, and she smelled really good. As she was rubbing her head against me, the smell became stronger. I love that part about you too, Margaret. Is that so, Rita? Oh, by the way, it's my first time seeing someone throwing out gold dust, Margaret. That's true, it is Orem's first time. Wait, dust? Rita. This was the third time looking at Orem. For some reason she had a jealous look on her face, but the fact that she was vomiting out gold dust. Wait, but why? Are you sure you're alright, Orem? Rita. Orem, the complexion of your face doesn't look alright. Let's go home for now. Celeste, I'll send her back now, so could you guide Margaret to the reception room, and also ask Emily to whip up something for our guest, Rita. Okay, I got it, Celeste. Celeste gently smiled as she nodded and brought Margaret. I took Orem, who was still binding daggers at me, to the basement. I changed her into a gold bar, and brought her back to the dungeon, was what I thought as I was bringing her, but Orem was sharply gazing at me. Her eyes seemed to be frustrated, and I couldn't move. What's the matter, Orem? Rita. Hey, the girls before, Orem, eh? Rita. What are they to Rita? Orem. What are they? What is? Rita. You know what I'm saying. There are those couples who come to the dungeon while singing out loud, and kissing while embracing each other, Orem. Dokin. Orem, who had a long history of dungeons, wasn't stupid. Contrary to not only understanding it, but she remembered it as well. Not counting Celeste, it's true that Elsa and Margaret once kissed me. I knew it. They've done it before, Orem. That is. Well, Rita. Muak. A. Rita. Before I could say anything, Orem tipped her toe and kissed me. Why? Rita. Orem did not answer. Instead she looked extremely embarrassed, yet she glanced at me with an angry red face. After looking at that kind of expression, see ya. After saying so, she turned herself to a gold bar. I was left alone in the basement for a while. After returning Orem to the dungeon, I came to Turaru dungeon using the teleportation room. Reason why was because Emily asked me to pick up some pumpkins as she wanted to serve cake to Margaret. My head was still confused by Orem, but I stopped thinking and went to the third floor of Turaru. Though I arrived, my mind was still confused. I kept thinking about the kiss from Orem. It didn't feel bad, honestly. Orem is cute to begin with. She's gotten way cuter after coming out from the dungeon. I can't say that it didn't bring pleasure when being kissed by Orem. Next time I'll talk about it from her. Trying to change my mind, I chose to hunt monsters. The monsters that dropped pumpkins, The cockroach slimes. The slime's body crawled all away the floor, reminiscent of a certain letter G living hell. I don't particularly hate it, but it didn't feel good either, so I defeated it with repetition so as not to touch it. The cockroach slimes that was knocked down dropped the pumpkins, the ordered pumpkins from Emily, and also another item. Gold dust was dropped together. Huh? Rita, why gold dust? Isn't his a drop from Aurum dungeon? Perhaps it was the thing that Aurum spewed out from her body just now? I thought so as I used another repetition on another cockroach slime. Afterwards, alongside with the pumpkin, a gold dust dropped. What the heck is happening? Rita. I remembered the kiss from Aurum. In my head, the word floated, although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 129. Morning. Turaru Dungeon. Basement, first floor. Because of some circumstances, I came to Turaru first instead of Nonium. When I encountered a slime, I quickly killed it with my normal bullets. The slime that was shot bursts and blew up. As the explosion diverges, it dropped immediately after that. Bean sprouts and gold dust. I picked both of them up and compared them side by side. My left hand was holding the bean sprouts, and my right the gold dust. Both were dropped from the slime at the same exact time. I went around the first floor and killed a few more slimes. All the drops were with bean sprouts and gold dust as a set. The drops were then sent to Elsa from my magic cart, and afterwards I went off to the second floor. As you can see, there were only drowsy slimes roaming around the second floor. The drops for Turaru's second floor were carrots, and without a doubt, the drops that the adventurers got from killing the drowsy slimes were carrots, only. Facing a drowsy slime, I fired a normal bullet and it dropped a carrot and a gold dust. As predicted, the gold dust dropped as well. Adding with the initial drop, the gold dust also dropped as a set. Was it really due to the spirit's protection? Rita, I unconsciously let out my voice as I was mumbling. If we're talking about gold dust, then it'll be Aurum. And speaking of Aurum, I was reminded of yesterday's kiss. And speaking of that kiss, it's not exactly tied straight to it, but after what happened from yesterday's event, a so-called protection was definitely blessed on me. After Aurum kissed me, I got gold dust from defeating monsters as a bonus. Afternoon. In the dungeon I caught hold of Celeste, and we both went out. We moved to a secluded place and I talked about the situation concerning Aurum. At first she was shocked, but soon after she calmed down and listened to the whole story. Would everything be a bonus gold dust drop? Celeste, not everything, just the dungeon's monsters, even Induraru, arsenic, and even Nonium. The bonus gold dust dropped. I was actually kinda surprised that Nonium would drop the gold dust too. Rita, inside a dungeon ... which means, Celeste. I nodded. Rogue monsters don't drop them. I answered her questions, and Celeste had a I knew it face. Seemed like the level-headed Celeste caught onto it quickly. So what you're saying is you've obtained that power from that spirit, Aurum? Celeste, that's just an assumption. Thus I came to you to seek for help. Did something like this happen before? I've heard that the existence of spirit was known only as an urban legend. Rita, that's right. When I first met Aurum, she talked about it. There was a possibility that ordinary adventurers could arrive at the place where the spirits lived, although it was very unlikely, but it actually happened before. I've also heard it from various adventurers and also from the Dungeon Association. They only knew the spirit of the dungeons from urban legends. If they were indeed people who met the spirits in the past, then I'm sure they would have received some kind of spiritual protection. As I asked about it from Celeste, she crossed her arms and tilted her head while thinking. I don't know whether it's true, but I've heard of people meeting up with the spirits and saying that they were quite whimsical. But if asked whether they were given the spirit's protection, that I'm not so sure, Celeste. I agree to the whimsical part, Rita. Actually, it was the same with Aurum. I'm sorry that I cannot be of help to Rita-san, Celeste. Nah, it's alright. It's not something Celeste should apologize. It was inevitable that they had less information about the spirits. Rita, thank you. But still it's amazing to think that whatever you defeat would drop you a gold dust, which means Rita-san would be able to earn way more than before. Celeste. Even if it's gold dust, the amount's no biggie. It is actually lesser if you were to defeat them directly in Orem Dungeon. Rita. Is that so, Celeste? Well, if I were to do it for a whole day, then my earnings would double. Rita. Isn't that incredible? Celeste retorted me in a loud voice. Your record per day was 3 million barrows, right? Celeste. Yeah, Rita. So double that amount? Celeste. Yep. I tried challenging the dungeon with the same conditions this morning and earned around 6 million barrows. Rita. That's amazing though. Celeste was half amazed, half admired, which means Rita-san could earn more than 10 million a day. Celeste. That's what I hope, Rita. After all, 10 million is indeed a big figure. When my balance in the passbook exceeded 10 million, I was happy, so I really wanted to see it through on earning more than 10 million per day. It might be impossible, but let's do our best. Then again, wouldn't it be easier to just ask the person herself? Celeste. That's right, Rita. As Celeste said, it would have been faster to ask Orem about the protection. In fact, after meeting with Orem and Arsenic, it somehow gave a protection to the dungeon. For Orem it was more drops. As for Arsenic it was a similar phenomenon as the double moon, where monsters are constantly increasing. Both of them confirmed of this effect as I've asked about it from Orem before. Then would humans gain that protection too? Well, it'll just be faster to ask her directly. It can't be helped, but I'm now in a predicament. If the protection of Orem was true, then the reason was because of the kiss. Then it would be embarrassing to ask her right now as something feels wrong. While thinking of another way to find out, I walked home with Celeste. As we entered the mansion, it was awfully noisy. Something happened? Celeste. It's Emily's voice, and it's coming from Elsa's office. Rita. Shall we look and see? Celeste. I guess I should put the case of Orem off first, and agreed with Celeste as we went to the office. We head for the branch of the Swallows repayment, which was assigned to Elsa. As we suspected, it was the two of them, Emily and Elsa. Ah. Welcome home Rita-san. Elsa. Welcome home Nano Desu. Emily. The two of them greeted me at the same time, and for some reason Emily's tension was high. What happened, Emily? Seems like something good happened today. Rita. Yes, Desu. I've broken my own record. No Desu. Emily. Your own record? Rita. It's the record of earnings per day, Desu. Emily. Elsa calmly explained, but there was a hint of happiness in her words. It was 5 million barrows. Elsa. Ain't that great, Emily? Rita. Congratulations, Emily. Celeste. Both Celeste and I congratulated Emily, and Emily grinned and laughed with embarrassment. But 5 million, huh? You really climbed up fast. What happened? Rita. It was thanks to Grandpa Nano Desu. Emily. TLN. What, Grandpa? Rita. Yes, Desu, the grandpa from Yoda-san's story. So I packed some lunchbox for him and went to give him, and he gave me a great power as a thank you. No Desu. Emily. Emily was brimming with excitement, so it was kinda difficult to understand her story because of her excitement. But I was immediately reminded of what happened. Even Emily received the spirit's protection? Rita. Emily's face grew even more happier as my assumption was correct. She silently nodded. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 130. Arsenic Basement, first floor. The entire Rita family came here. Everyone came to Arsenic to witness Emily's spirit protection and what it really is. All of us used the teleportation room which brought us to the dungeon, and a rock-type monster, Dante Rock, was laying there as Emily carried her hammer and ran towards its general direction. For some reason Alice was beside her pushing the magic cart. Let's begin. No Desu. Emily. Whenever you're okay, Alice answered with her usual hilariousness while making a ring shape with her thumb and index finger. Emily took a deep breath before swinging down her hammer, crushing the Dante Rock. After the monster disappeared, an item of the first floor of Arsenic, Dandelion, dropped. Emily lifted her hammer up whilst Alice was crouching down to pick up the dandelion. Up to this point was the usual sight, a common scene in the dungeon of this world where you defeat monsters and it produces resources. However, just after Alice picked up the dandelion, a light shone which was something out of the ordinary. What gives? The spot where the Dante rock disappeared not too long ago has reappeared again. Was it a timed resurrection? Rita, it's not like that, Alice. Then how? Rita, once you see it you'll come to understand. As Celeste said so, Emily started moving again. Emily swung her hammer down again and broke the rock. Alice then picked up the dropped dandelion, and afterwards the Dante rock reappeared again. Immediately after picking up the dandelion, it resurrected quickly. That's quick, I was astonished. As Emily continued moving again, the rock reemerges. Emily strikes, Alice picks it up, the rock reappears, and Emily whacks. Emily struck again, and as Alice picked up the item the next rock came out immediately. It resurrected in no time. Emily continued to strike it, smashing it in a rhythm. Alice picks up the dandelion and puts it into the magic cart. They picked up the pace, and the moment Emily raised her hammer, Alice had her hands readied on the dandelion to grab it. While Alice grabbed it, Emily was already swinging down her hammer. Immediately after Alice grabbed it, the Dante rock resurrects and Emily's hammer that had the motion of swinging down had already crushed the rock. It was a super high pace that I've never thought of before. I then looked around and saw another Dante rock and went near it and broke it with my fist. Dandelion dropped, but the Dante rock never resurrected. I see. So this was the blessing bestowed upon Emily. Thinking on the perspective of circling around the dungeon, as you become strong to some extent, you would try and find the next efficient way of hunting monster, as that is the key in increasing earnings. For me, I would memorize the structure of the dungeon and the timing of revival of each monsters based on experience, and Alice being born in the dungeon has a special ability to sense where each and every monsters are. Celeste would gather an abundance of knowledge, and Eve. Well, what does Eve do? In any case, they would raise their efficiency in their own way. But none of us had thought of taking the search out of the equation, as searching for monsters in a dungeon would inevitably suffer losses as we have to move around. Thus, this blessing Arsenic gave to Emily was amazing. The same monster revives at the same place just after being defeated. Moreover, the drop would come out properly. Emily having this must have been the best blessing to hunt. As though finding the perfect environment and condition of fish that found water, Emily was pounding rocks rhythmically. Though she was holding a hammer, but the way I see it is as if being in the kitchen every morning and chopping things on a cutting board with a kitchen knife. My heart felt relaxed as I remembered something nostalgic while watching her. Emily strucks, and Alice picked up at the side. Hit it. Pick it, hit it, pick it. This sight was something I was familiar with. It looked like pounding rice cakes. Rita, rice cakes desu? Emily, Japan. It was something very similar that we do back in my hometown. One person pounds the rice with a pestle, and the other person would knead the rice right after the pestle was raised up. That technique was similar to this, Rita. That is true, Celeste. This sound might become a habit. While Celeste was nodding in approval, Eve, which was wearing a bunny costume, was chewing non-stop on a carrot. As usual, Eve was biting on the delicious-looking carrots, but surprisingly she was interested in Emily's rock splitting. I get you. The timing is always constant, which resembles a metronome, Rita. The sound that you want to hear. Fuo of E tilde. Eve, don't suddenly fall asleep. Rita. Eve, that was holding on a carrot with both hands, had her neck shaking around like a cuckoo. Her eyes that was focusing on Emily until then were semi-closed, and she was drooling onto the carrot that she was holding. As she wasn't wearing her usual bunny suits but instead her bunny will never sleep, Eve, who realized that she was about to fall asleep, immediately snapped out of it and gazed at her carrot and started chewing again. It was obvious that she was tricking us into thinking she was asleep. No, you were sleeping all right, Rita. No such thing. Sleeping magic will not work on Bunny, Eve. That's not magic, it's just a sound, Rita. Even if that's the case, it will not work, as long as there are carrots. Worry, as Eve was saying that while chewing, but soon after she fell asleep again. Emily's rock-splitting technique is preeminent for its hypnotic effects. If this was made into a movie called Sleeping BGM, I am sure it'll hit millions of hits. At night, in the mansion, while I was relaxing in my room, someone knocked on my door. I responded, and Emily came in. Emily, who came back from outside, changed into a dressing gown, went inside my room while her face was slightly dyed red. "What's the matter, Emily?" "Rita, I came to thank Yoda-san no desu." "Emily, thank me?" "Rita." While I was wondering what it was, Emily came in front of me. As her cheeks became redder and redder, she looked me in the eyes. "Thanks to Yoda-san, I was able to earn lots desu, Emily." "Well, that's also Emily's own effort, Rita, breaking those rocks continuously, and also bringing food to that old grandpa Arsenic, which gave her the blessing. It was all Emily's efforts." "That's what I thought." "It's different desu. If Yoda-san weren't here, then I would still be living in Daru's first floor fighting slimes desu. My level being max and also having such amazing hammer, plus receiving the blessings from Spirit-san. All of it was all thanks to Yoda-san no desu." "What's more, Emily?" "What's more?" "Rita." Emily presented something to me. I confirmed what it was. It was her passbook. "This is?" "Rita, look inside desu, Emily." Peeking at other person's passbook is a violation, but since Emily gave me the permission to see it, it was fine. I opened it up and looked at it. It had lots of money deposited inside but rarely any withdrawals. It was a housewife-like passbook that suited Emily. The balance was gentle compared to mine, but the number has certainly increased. And for today's earnings, the balance came up to 10 million peros. "Congratulations, Emily." "Rita, it's all thanks to Yoda-san no desu." "Thank you no desu, Emily." I was being thanked once more. "I see. That's why she came to my room." Emily earning 10 million, lodging in the dungeon, and living in such a hard condition, barely scraping by daily. That Emily having 10 million. It felt like my tears might overflow with emotions. I handed the passbook back to Emily and looked at her. "In total there are 118 dungeons, and 116 spirits still remained unseen. We can still become stronger." "Emily." "Rita." "Yes desu, Emily." "Let's aim for 100 million next, Rita." "Yes desu, Emily." Emily, who was holding on to her passbook, nodded with her face brimming with smiles. This smile appeared to be her most pleasing smiles after meeting her. "Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest." Chapter 131. Nonium 6th floor. I who turned into a stone encircled the floor, filled with the poison mist. I was aiming my revolver steadily to headshot some zombies. As Nonium isn't a time attack dungeon, I could slowly and carefully do things here. One shot, one kill, keeping my 100% headshot streak. I continued hunting. At the same time, I did not neglect dodging attacks, though I've became invincible thanks to the Absolute Rock's powers, but that was just to prevent from being poisoned, not letting any monsters land any hits on me. I properly dodged their attacks. There was once when I played a game which became a habit of mine, where when I became stronger, when hunting low-level mobs, I would just use my strong skills to kill them while making huge wasteful movements. Not falling for that again, I carefully planned my movement while hunting the poison zombies, dodging all their attacks, and also landing all my headshots 100% of the time. If I were to do the latter, it would have been easier, but it is also important to concentrate at all times, and although it exhausts me, when the time comes I would be prepared to face against them. Training a ton for the entire morning, my intelligence has reached C from D. Of course, my dodging and hit rate was at a 100% at all times. Afternoon, before leaving to earn some income, I went to the city. After handing the mirror to Nonium, I wandered around the city more frequently for the remaining sword and jewel. Since obtaining the ability to teleport to any dungeons, the excess free time was used to search for the items in the city. "Yo brother, how about trying some of them tobaccos?" From the 30th to the 60th floors have tobaccos, you know, the newt that has the special zinkum, Chinese softshell turtle, and Momoshigloideus blomophiiga, Japanese pit viper. We have all of them. We even have some rare newts. Today, we received only one box of Krypton's green onion. You can eat it or shake it. It's even fresher than any Shikuro dungeon's green onions. The city of Shikuro is as lively as ever. The market was crowded with products that had been gathered from various dungeons. I was deeply emotional to think that even the various vegetables that was produced by me were selling in the streets. While wandering around the market without purchasing anything, I would sometimes pick up some dungeon names which made me go, what the heck? I thought the gods in this world hates tobacco, so why were things like existing? And Zinkum's energy drink. Well, whatever. Compared to those, the gold from Aurum was straightforward and likable. While wandering around the market, I looked around for the sword and jewel. Suddenly, I noticed that a part of the market was making a big fuss. I wonder what happened as I went towards it. It's a monster. A rogue monster has appeared. Call someone. Pierre's husband is being attacked. As I'd gotten close to the commotion enough to distinguish words from the noise, I immediately kicked the ground and dashed. A middle-aged man was attacked by a monster at the source of the noise, which was smacked right in the middle of a horse racing field. The monster is a Frankenstein, a rogue monster hatched from garbage. Repetition, Rita. Since the guy was about to be attacked, I hurriedly used repetition as it was urgently needed. The Frankenstein was erased without a sound and the man was saved. Immediately after, cheering sounds were made. The thankful words and praise of the citizens filled the air as they saw me help the man. Thank you. Thank you for saving me. Are your injuries alright? Rita. This is but a scratch. The man that I helped, Pierre showed his elbow and laughed. It was certainly a light scratch, a degree of scratch that you would have when you rubbed against a wall while escaping. I was glad that it wasn't severe. Still, it has increased recently, Pierre. Increased as in, the Frankensteins? Rita. Oh. You don't know about it? Recently there have been many cases of it appearing inside the city. Pierre. Was there such a thing? Why though? Doesn't Shikuro have peoples burning the garbages? Rita. This reminded me of Celeste, who was once part of this job. In this world, even the so-called garbage that humans leave would turn into rogue monsters. Those materials that turned into garbage are not monsters from the original materials. They changed to one type of monster called the Frankenstein. If you leave the garbage as is, it would turn into monsters and bring harm. This world puts disposing of waste way more of importance than Japan, which would lead to a high-quality living environment. As dungeons increases, adventurers would also increase, which inputs more taxes for the city, which is supposed to use to properly handle garbages. About that, Pierre frowned and said, recently there has been rumors of people tampering with garbages. I don't know why, but they're ruining the garbage. Pierre. Ruining garbages, Rita. That's right, they would scatter the garbage occasionally, which resulted in the rogue monsters being hatched. Pierre. Is that so? Ruining garbages. Who is it and what are their motives? After separating from Pierre, I tried walking around the city while observing. It's true that I could see garbage sometimes laying around. Since garbage becomes garbage, it was zero, up until now, as it was a necessity. This world where no garbage can be seen anywhere is kind of like an Eden that has been slowly falling apart. There weren't any problems for garbage in the main street for now, as there were people during the daytime, so it won't become rogue monsters. However, the wind blew, the garbage wavered, and was carried to an alleyway. Luckily I saw it, thus I burned it with my flame bullet. The garbage that had been carried to place that weren't popular would eventually become rogue monsters, causing a commotion just like a while ago. Still, why would you want to litter garbage? I went back to the mansion and told Alice. I explained what was happening in town. Alice. Can you also perceive the monsters' whereabouts in the city? Rita. It's possible. When Bonnie-chan and the rest were playing hide and seek with me, I used that to win them all. Alice boasted. The monsters that were riding on her shoulders protested while jumping around, bouncing and poking at her. They're so close together as always. If that's the case, then that's good. Will you patrol the streets for a while? Alice. We can use your powers to find the just-hatched Frankenstein so we can defeat it before it starts attacking innocent civilians, Rita. Okay, got it, Alice. I'm sorry for asking you to do something like this, Rita. That's alright, it's cool to protect everyone, Alice. Alice heartily laughed. I immediately found one, Alice, eh? Rita, over there, just over there, there's a monster. Alice. Alice pointed at the wall of the Mancino. Although it is a wall, there was a garbage dumpster where garbage was gathered. I'll go ahead and check, Alice. That's alright, with that distance it's better for me to go. Thanks, Alice. Rita. While thanking her, I jumped out of the mansion. I head towards where Alice pointed. When I arrived at the garbage dump, I found something lurking in the shadows. The shadow was small. It wasn't human. It was a rogue monster. There are private houses in the vicinity. If left alone, it might cause havoc. Acting as fast as I could, I used repetition on it. The strongest farm magic. Repetition killed immediately without mercy. Because the rogue monster was a Frankenstein, it would immediately die. It didn't work. The monster snuck around the garbage and eventually ran away. Wait. Rita. I was puzzled for a moment and stopped for a moment as repetition did not work, during which the enemy escaped. While chasing after it, I used repetition once again. As expected, it did not work. Why though? I thought as I finally caught a glimpse of the enemy. This bugger had a cloth covering it, thus I couldn't identify it. However, it was a fact that that wasn't a Frankenstein. I see, you're the culprit, Rita. Recalling back, this bugger must have been the one scattering the garage. So it wasn't the Frankenstein. Then it might be the culprit of the garbage vandalism. As I thought, I decided not to defeat it but catching it. I kicked the ground and dashed to it with my SS speed. I pretended to run away from him. The head ... I thrust the muzzle of the revolver where the head seemed to be. Freeze, Rita. The enemy stopped moving, and was trembling in fear. While keeping my revolver on its head, I took the cloth off. Don't attack please. I'm not a bad monster. I was surprised. No, this was beyond surprised. What appeared from beneath the cloth? Fur that was dirty all over and shabby. A dog. No, it was a dog-like monster. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 132. While holding onto my revolver, I took a closer look at the person. Although the form was that of a dog, but the size was a larger than a street Bernard, which was already large in size. It looked to be about the size of a pony. Because his fur was dirty, I couldn't tell right away, but probably the ground was gray in color. His face could be described as either brave or just fierce. It was something of the two, and its eyebrows was in a shape of a comma. I could only describe him as a person who is constantly in trouble. Is it really a monster? Don't kill me. I know. I'll give you something good. As the dog said, he took something out from the cloth. The thing that he took off was a piece of dirty paper. I'll give this to you, so please overlook my behavior. I heard that the humans value this a lot. This is ... a 1,000 Piro bill? Rita. What the dog took out was a crumbled up 1,000 Piro bill that had been dirtied here and there. Yes, it was something I picked up a long time ago. I heard that humans can eat rice with this. Is that right? Well ... you can eat, Rita. If that's the case, I'll give this to you. But in return, please overlook my actions. What to do? I'm troubled. Or more like, I was worried. I was taken in surprise by the monster-like dog who was able to talk. But the fact that he had absolutely no offensive nature that monsters tend to have. What's more, he was pleading for his life. The way he was begging was also troublesome. Plus he always had a 1,000 Piro bill around. This person ... What on earth is it? Jiru. A loud noise was heard that even the surrounding could hear. The hungry sound was coming from the dog's belly. Are you hungry? Rita. Yay. But it's alright. I will not pick up garbage anymore, so I will leave this town as soon as you let me off. It's true, please believe me. A dog that was desperately appealing to me. I relaxed my arms as I slowly lowered my revolver. I wasn't able to shoot. Me and the dog moved to the back alley. Are you sure? The dog looked at me with a frightened face. A meat was placed on the ground. It was a raw meat that I bought at a nearby store and brought here for the dog. Judging from the dog's appearance, I bought around 3 kilograms worth of meat. The price was around 10k euros. It was 350 euro per gram, but I was given extra. Do you dislike meat, or do you not eat raw food? Rita. That's not it. I'll eat anything so long it's food. I remembered the Krypton onions in the city a while ago, but the dog in front of me had a pitiable face. Then eat it. Don't hold back, Rita. Really? Yeah, Rita. Then, the dog was clearly frightened, but as I urged him to eat, he quickly bite onto the meat. Originally I bought the meat for him in the first place, so I watched him eat normally, while not bothering on me looking at me. The dog finished the meat after licking his mouth. Thank you. It was delicious. Was it enough? If so, should I buy some more? Rita. It's all right. I've already ate a month's worth. A month's worth? Rita. Yeah. I usually eat waste from human garbage, but inside there's no such thing as meat. So it really was you who was littering garbage all around, Rita. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, but why would you throw rubbish? Well, I can tell just by looking, Rita. Yes, just by seeing. The huge dog that might or might no be a monster that I was speaking to. He might be different. His clothes were tattered and clumsy, while hiding from the eyes of human. He clinged to garbage and he only had one bill that he picked up afterwards. The word, homeless, came into mind. In the first place, what are you? Are you a monster? Rita. Maybe. Rita. I don't know, it was such a long time ago, but when I came to I was in a different city, different from here. Well, you might not be a monster, Rita. That's what I thought at first, but when people look at me, they are always saying, so the rogue monster Cerberus has come out. Rogue monster, as in monsters who came out to the city. It's true, but it's slightly different. But I see, Rita. Apparently, the dog seemed to be a rogue monster resembling that of a Cerberus, because several people saw him before, so there wasn't a doubt, because the humans labeled me as rogue monsters so I would be killed if I was found, so I went hidden all the time and wandered to various cities. I heard that this city had a lot of humans, so it must be easy to find food, so I'd gotten too excited that I was littering around garbages. So that's why Frankenstein was popping out recently, Rita. So I thought of finding a job in the dungeon as I followed the human beings, but I heard that rogue monsters will disappear when entering a dungeon, so I was afraid and did not do so. Rita. That's true. If this Cerberus was really a rogue monster, then he can't go into the dungeon and earn an income like the rest of us. He can't get the #1 most popular job in this world. I'm sorry. I'll leave the city soon, so please do not kill me. He was begging for his life, even without being told. I couldn't bring myself to kill him. He doesn't even know who he was, and being labeled as a Cerberus, he had to live a life of hiding and escaping all the time. Thank you, Human-san. Thank you for the meal. I'll give this to Human-san. The Cerberus showed the note that he previously handed to me, putting the 1,000 euro bill in front of me, then stepped forward and started walking. He held the tattered cloth to hide his identity as he proceeded towards the back alley. Should I let him go as is? But if I were to stop him, what should I do? I can't believe I was lost in words. Wow. TSK. It's a rogue monster. An adventurer appeared from the other side of the alley. A male adventurer that was pushing a magic cart was holding onto an Emily-modeled hammer. He looked like he was on the way back from the dungeon and on the way to a trading store. Both of them stopped moving. The first to move was the adventurer. The guy swung his hammer sideways. The hammer hit Cerberus, and the pony-sized body blew away beside him. His head crashed to the wall before crashing to the ground. Isn't it sort of weak? You gave me a heart attack. The guy was complaining to himself, as he pushed his magic cart away. There were quite a few adventurers who do not knock down rogue monsters even when they met one, as rogue monsters do not drop any items. They would do it if the Dungeon Association requests or gives incentives, but if they do not, they often find it not necessary to defeat them. The majority of adventurers in this world, including that man who struck the Cerberus, would leave the place afterwards. Meanwhile, Cerberus, who was beaten by a hammer and fell on the ground, wasn't moving at all. It wasn't dead. Monster. A rogue monster would disappear as soon as it dies, so I judged that it wasn't dead. My judgment was right. After a while, the Cerberus budged and stood up. "Hey, you alright, Rita?" I rushed over and stopped for a moment, and before taking a step I stopped. At that time I did not think about it, but there wasn't any sign to it. But I stopped and placed my arms on my head like a cross. You could call it intuition. This intuition was a momentary comprehensive judgment that came from my accumulated experiences. It asked me to make a defensive posture. The next moment, the Cerberus rushed at me with a furious momentum. The Cerberus blew me away while I was guarding, and he went straight from my back and went out of the alley while colliding with the buildings. Kaya. What happened? Residents of the city screamed, and the passerby ran in horror. The Cerberus jumped out of the alley, this time opened his mouth and bit me. I stuck out both hands and caught the top and bottom of its teeth firmly. The sharp tusk caught in my palm hurts. Garrrrrroo. The Cerberus raised a low grunting noise and put more effort into his chin. "It's a Cerberus. A rogue demon dog has appeared. Someone call for an adventurer. Even the Dungeon Association is fine." "Wait. Isn't that Rita too? It's the boss of the Rita family. Is it that rumored adventurer that got rid of rogue monsters that other adventurers hate to do?" I heard noises from my surroundings. Some were cheering, some lifted their voice, and I saw the figure of that person who seemed to go and call for an adventurer. This is bad. I'll have to settle this quickly. If it was an ordinary adventurer, they'll most likely not care for a rogue monster, but adventurer who have been called at such times will definitely beat them till the end. I actually sympathize with the Cerberus who was forced to live in such an incompetent lifestyle. I do not want to see the sight of this dog being killed. I must do something before the adventurers come. Garrrrrroo. The Cerberus had bloodshot eyes, maybe due to him hitting his head on the wall. He has lost his mind. If that's the case, I took my hands off from his mouth and jumped away for only a moment. I pulled out my revolvers and loaded bullets into it. The Cerberus jumped further. It was fast. The speed was probably around A. While ferociously diving, I calmly shot it with my revolver. With my dual revolvers firing a maxed enhanced recovery bullet, a sleeping bullet that was fused midair. The sleeping bullet directly struck at the Cerberus who jumped straight towards me. Its bloodshot eyes instantly changed into white eyes. I jumped midair and embraced the Cerberus. The effect of the sleeping bullet was preeminent. Cerberus, who was groaning with swelled up eyes until a while ago started to breathing through his nose, started falling asleep. "What? So you're here." It was a familiar voice as I looked up and Neptune appeared. The leader of the Neptune family, an adventurer who combines capability and fame. Behind him were Ryu and Ren that came together with him. From before it seemed that they were chanting to power up Neptune, meaning they were serious. Cerberus might have suffered serious injuries by him if I was a tad bit late. If it was you, then I wouldn't have to hurry my way over. By the way, how long are you going to hold on to that, Neptune? That's right. What should I do, Rita? It's more fun and exciting if it's me who is hugging you, Neptune. You're definitely a homo. Rita. As I loudly retorted, Neptune laughed heartily. That's not true. Okay, I do love girls, right, Ran? Ryu? Neptune called out his two partners. Though what really happened? If it was a rogue monster, why don't you defeat it earlier? If you don't do so, then the gallery won't be satisfied, you know? Neptune. I can't defeat this guy, Rita. Why? Neptune. Rita, you can't answer, huh? Then keep it, Neptune. I can keep it? Rita. I was surprised as though it was natural for Neptune. It's a rogue monster, you know, Rita. Then tame it for yourself. What's more, it's not as though we have to absolutely exterminate rogue monsters. You should know it better if you're involved with making new magic carts, Neptune. That's true. The calculation and transfer function attached to the magic cart were used from the rock monsters of arsenic. It will definitely not attack, so even if it became a rogue monster, it was just a harmless rock. It's only dangerous if the rogue monster went rampant. If you can guarantee that there is no danger, What's more, even if it's dangerous, if you can suppress it properly, then there's no problem. Neptune. Neptune smiled from one side of the corner of his mouth. I don't really care about hunting rogue monsters that does not drop anything, Neptune, though it was common sense, but I felt a scary feeling from his eyes. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 133. After separating with Neptune, for now I brought Cerberus back to my mansion. Is this where Human-san is living? Yeah. Rita, astonishing. Is Human-san perhaps a great and famous human? I wonder too, Rita. I don't think I was famous. The only thing I had that the people in this world don't have was the only one skill, unique skill, that I hold, and only just recently did I get slightly famous. Anyways, let's go in first. I hope someone's at home, Rita. Everyone should be in the dungeon right about this time. While thinking so, I brought Cerberus inside the mansion. Why did Yoda-san came back at this kind of time, Disu? Emily. I encountered Emily while entering from the hallway. Emily wasn't holding a hammer but instead a broom. I was wandering around Shikoro City instead of diving into the dungeon. How about Emily? Rita. Thanks to the teleportation room, I got to finish early and arrived home, Disu. Hence with the remaining time I thought of cleaning the house, no Desu? Emily. I see. Thanks again, Emily. Due to Emily's influence, our home has once again become warm, which brings me joy, Rita. I like doing it, so it's only natural, no Desu? Emily. Still, thanks for always helping out, Rita. Emily looked down as she was embarrassed. According to her, she said she liked doing it, but it felt like she was embarrassed just by being praised. This figure was extremely adorable and I wanted to praise her even more, but I felt the presence of Cerberus sneaking behind me, so I thought of solving this problem first. This is great since Emily's here. I need to go somewhere after this, so in the meantime could you take care of it first? Rita. Take care, Disu. Whatever Yoda-san request, I'll do it with the utmost ability, Nano Desu. Emily. Thanks. It's this doggy, Rita. Oh, it's a doggy, Nano Desu. It's huge, Nano Desu. Emily. It's unnaturally huge, Rita. When I called Cerberus to come inside, he was already small when near the entrance, but it shrunk further by Emily's words. A big doggy, Nano Desu. Emily. Nice to meet you. It can even talk, Desu? Emily. Yeah, this dog is actually a monster. Thus, before anyone could kill it, I decided to protect it. Rita. I see, Nano Desu. Please leave it to me, Nano Desu. Emily. While still holding on to the broom, Emily did a guts pose. It was the familiar and adorable Emily, but when she did that guts pose and I picture the broom being a hammer, I had no worries relying on her. Yo, you're not scared of me? Though I'm a rogue monster. If it's monster, we have more in here, no Desu? Emily. She's talking about Alice, huh? Though that felt somewhat different than this. Then I'll leave him to you. I'll come home as soon as I can. Rita. Yes, Desu. Emily. Leaving Emily to take care of Cerberus, I went out the mansion and head towards the direction of the Dungeon Association. The various procedures took about an hour. After explaining the circumstances to Clint, I talked about the story that Neptune brought up. Thus, I had permission to keep the rogue monster, and the proof was the collar that I received. Afterwards I went back to the mansion. Entering the mansion, I began looking around. When I arrived at the kitchen, I could see the figures of Emily and Cerberus. Cerberus was sitting beside Emily and strongly wagging his tail. Because his figure was quite huge, the momentum of the tail was quite severe. It might even break some bones of an adult. It was that severe. I'm back, Rita. Welcome home, Yoda-san, Nano Desu. Emily. Welcome home, Human-san. Emily and Cerberus greeted me. Emily had her usual sweet and adorable smile, but Cerberus came to me and his tail immediately stopped wagging. It's not as though he needed to be vigilant when I'm here. Unlike for Emily, he did not show any signs of alertness. I wonder why. Listen to this, Human-san. Human-san's food were extremely delicious. Food? Rita. I looked at where Emily was standing, as she nodded with her little head. Yes, Desu. After Yoda-san has left, the doggy was apparently hungry as his stomach was growling, so I made something for him, no Desu? Emily. It was a taste that one could only dream of. Ah, I see, Rita. The mystery has been solved. As I thought, Cerberus, who was looking at Emily, was wagging his tail again. What's more, the speed increased, this time with an enchanted face. It looked like Emily had bait, which made the tail wagged like crazy. Can't be helped. Emily's food had already reached narcotic grade. It's just good. It's just really delicious and warms one's heart. But you would keep wanting more, eating it non-stop. It seemed that the foundation had already changed to a mystery grade. That is the greatness of Emily's food. So I understood why Cerberus would wag his tail till it could come off any second. Speaking of, where did Yoda-san went, Disu? Emily, the Dungeon Association. I was requesting to rear this doggy. Since it's a rogue monster, I thought it was under the jurisdiction of the Dungeon Association. Rita, that's true, Disu. Emily, then, he made a collar for him, but first we have to decide a name for him. Once you decide on a name and let him wear it, the name would magically appear on display. Rita, I took out the collar and pointed at the white part which was in the middle of the collar. You don't have a name, right? Rita, yes. Please give me a name, Human-san. Okay, before that I have something to confirm. Rita, confirm? I have already came up with 2 names, but I don't know which to choose. Rita, what should we do, Disu? Emily, follow me. Rita, as I said that, I walked away, bringing Emily and Cerberus. We went to the garden outside of the mansion. After stopping, I turned back to the 2-person, and took out a ball that I had purchased in the city in advance. The size was similar to a baseball. What are you gonna do with that, Yoda-san? Emily, I'll throw it. Heave-ho. Rita, I threw the ball at a random direction. There wasn't any technique or speed to my throw. I just threw it, aiming at some random mountain. As I did so, Cerberus immediately chased after the ball. It's doggy nano desu? Emily, yeah, it resembles more of a dog. Rita, what is the meaning of this nano desu? Emily, I wanted to make it clear of whether his root was a dog or a wolf. Depending on that, I'll change my way of naming him. Rita, I see, so you brought this ball to test the doggy nano desu? Emily, exactly, Rita. After explaining it to Emily, she understood immediately, and right on time Cerberus brought the ball back. He sat right in front of me, and with the ball on his mouth he looked up at me. Moreover, he was wagging his tail. He seemed pleased, though it wasn't as crazy as the reaction from Emily. I kept it a secret that Emily's food transcends the instincts of the dog. Nice catch, good boy, Rita. Receiving the ball, I patted Cerberus's head. He had a satisfying look, and the wagging of his tail increased further in speed. So from now on your name shall be called Cerberus, Rita. After saying so, I helped him wear the collar. Immediately, the collar shone, and the word was written. So it's Cerberus Disu? Emily, it roughly translates to the watchdog of hell, since the word Cerberus has the word Rus in it, so I thought of the closest sounding word, Rita. Thank you so much, Cerberus. Cerberus looked extremely satisfied with the collar on his neck. By the way, Yoda-san, if he was a wolf, what would you name him, no desu? Emily, maybe Loki or Hollow. Both are names of legendary wolves. Rita, I see nano desu. Even if it's doggy or wolf, there's a lot of lo in their names, no desu. Emily, it's not as though that's the reason, but I guess if Emily was convinced, then it's fine. I turned around to Cerberus with a S sound, which is now called Cerberus with a KH sound. Wear this collar at all times. Other people would not be able to attack you if you have this. Rita, yes, Cerberus. Is it such an amazing color, nano desu? Emily, it's proof that I'm the owner. If he wears this and Cerberus went berserk, then it's my responsibility, and by wearing this, if other adventurers were defeated, it will turn hostile. Rita, then it's safe, nano desu. I'm sure there's nobody that exists in Shikara would declare war against Yoda-san, no desu. Emily, I wish that were the case. Human-san is indeed an astounding person. Cerberus, Yoda-san is awesome, no desu. The strongest in Shikaro desu, the #1 most profitable, and the #1 fastest to solve problems. These 3 kingdoms, nano desu. Emily, oh, Cerberus's impression of me has increased. His eyes were clearly dyed with respect. I was being picked up by such a human. Cerberus, while we're at it, why not change the way you speak no desu? Since Yoda-san is taking care of you, calling him human-san sounds weird no desu? Emily. That's right. Ito. What should I do? How should I call you? Cerberus, call him Master no desu? Emily spoke before I could even say anything. Master? Cerberus, since he is an amazing person, okay doggy, so calling him Master is okay no desu? Emily, no wait a minute, calling me Master is a little, Rita. Master. Master. Cerberus was repeating the word over and over again until he'd gotten used to it. You don't have to take it seriously, you know, as I thought. But I realized something. Cerberus's tail was wagging like crazy. Left, right, left, right. It was the strength of a home run batter using his full strength to swing. And you could even hear the sound barrier breaking each time he swings his tail. Master, Cerberus, while calling me with an innocent face, the tail was beating up and down from the ground with great momentum. Dawn. It roared and the ground was slightly dent. Are you that happy to call me Master? Was it because dogs are alpha and they are glad to be kept by people with high position? Well, it's not like I mind it. Rather, it may be convenient to call me Master, because it's a monster that could talk. If he called me Master when we're outside, it would appeal to various people, and the other adventurers would not dare to attack. This is the dog-eared beastman, and with its childish appearance calling me Master, but it's a monster, so there isn't any problem. Master, Cerberus. Oh, go and catch it once more, Rita, I said as I threw the ball, and Cerberus chased after the ball with a speed like the wind. It seemed to be more happy when I gave him food nano desu, as expected of Yoda-san nano desu. Emily, we'll have to introduce him to everyone later. Rita, I feel that everyone will be pleased that our family is increasing desu. Emily, I guess so, Rita. While anticipating the reaction of my teammates, I looked at the appearance of Cerberus, who was chasing after the ball. Cerberus went to the edge of the garden where the ball landed, but for some reason, he started sniffing on the ground. Is something there no desu? Emily, let's go and take a look. Hey Cerberus, what's wrong? Rita, Master, please let me dig here. Cerberus, here? Rita, yes, Cerberus. Cerberus nodded heavily. While thinking of an olden story, he started digging the ground. There couldn't be something over here. Suppose there was, then it would have turned into a rogue monster. Rita, that's okay nano desu. Even though there's no one living in this mansion previously, but the shop registered people to send them and patrol this area so no rogue monsters would appear. Emily. I see, Rita. Well convinced with the common sense of this world, he continued digging. After digging down about 50 centimeters, we found something. It was something you would occasionally see in games and other. It was a special item. A jewel. Wait, a jewel? Rita. What he dug up was something I was looking for some time. It might be an item related to nonium, although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 134. Inside the mansion, I was leading Emily and Cerberus over to an empty room that was lying around in the mansion. What sort of room is this, Master? Cerberus. It's a storeroom. Stuffs that we normally don't use would be put inside here, right Emily? Rita. Yes desu. It's been properly kept inside this room desu. Emily. Nice. Before that, let's check something first. Rita. Cerberus had a puzzled look on his face as he looked at me taking out something, a consumable item that was the size of my palm. It was a portable KIA board to check statuses. If you went to a dungeon, you could check it as often as you like, but other than that, we could use this consumable item to check it too. Well, it wasn't really that expensive to begin with, so I bought it as a backup for when we needed it. I handed it to Cerberus. Use this and see. Rita. I understand. Like that? Cerberus. Using the portable KIA board, Cerberus checked his status. Cerberus's status were quite weak. His level cap is still far away since he's still at level 1, but overall his status were quite low. Honestly speaking, if I were to fire a normal bullet at him, he might have been defeated, That was how weak he was. Did you not raise your level? Have you not defeated anything previously? Rita, by defeating you meant the humans? If I were to do that, the humans would pay back double the pain to me. Cerberus, I see, you did mention that you were hiding while trying your best to stay alive. Rita, while we were talking, Emily opened the door and went inside. Inside the storeroom were various stuff placed around, and all of them were neatly placed and kept in order. There weren't even a speck of dust found. Even those mean aunties or mother-in-laws couldn't complain at such clean and tidy place. Amazing. Rita, yes, Desu? Emily, nah, I was just thinking how amazing Emily is. Rita, is that so, Nano Desu? Emily had a I don't understand look on her face. I placed my finger on the wall and dragged it down. When I lift my finger up, there weren't even a speck of dust. On the contrary, my finger left a dirt mark on the wall, as expected of Emily, right? Emily then brought a box from within the room, and inside the box was a huge amounts of crystal. We've collected a huge sum, huh, Rita, because Yoda-san sent such large amounts every day, so it became like so, no Desu? Emily, what might that be, Master? Cerberus, instead of explaining, showing it to you would be quicker. Try holding it, Rita, as per what I instructed. Cerberus grabbed at one of the crystals from within the box with his mouth. Afterwards, the moment the crystal was held, it melted almost instantly. Oh wow, Master. The moment I touched it, it disappeared. Cerberus, don't panic. That's how it's supposed to be. Well, don't stop now. Emily, bring along the rest of it. Rita, yes, Desu. Emily, Cerberus, who was surprised, and Emily, who was doing her best carrying all the rest of the crystals that were stored at the corner of the storeroom. Even though he had a I have no idea what's going on look on his face, because his master ordered him to do so, he continued biting the crystals one after the another, and with that, absorbed into his body. Continuing that kind of motion, we emptied 20 boxes in no time. Master, it won't disappear anymore even if I held it. Cerberus, I guess you've capped your level. Well, use this once more, Rita. I handed Cerberus the consumable item, which was to check your status. With a fox-like face he used the item. As such, Whoa, Master, my level has been raised to the max. Cerberus, so you properly capped out. Rita, yes. The crystal that I asked Cerberus to hold was the EXP crystals. It was the effect of the ring dropped by Nonium Dungeon's master. When you maxed out your level, an EXP crystal would drop, so to speak. Until now, I did not have a reason to utilize it so much, so this was the first time it helped out. Our newly made dog friend Cerberus, from level 1 he has maxed his level instantly. If you become my teammate, you'll instantly maxed your level. I thought as this might be the standard when someone joins in the Rita family. Master is amazing, Cerberus. Of course. It's Yoda-san we're speaking, Nano Desu? Obviously he'll be amazing, Nano Desu. Emily, I'm really fortunate that Master found me and with his kind heart picked me up. Cerberus, who was deeply emotional, and said something adorable which doesn't suit his huge body. Though Cerberus can't go into a dungeon, but please protect this mansion instead. Please be the strongest pet that won't shame our family's name. Attack if you see any foreign enemy. This is your master's order, Rita. Yes, I'll kill each and every one of master's enemies. Cerberus enthusiastically said. His actual ability wasn't low. His ability was strong enough that he could defeat the adventurers from around this area. Well, next is bite me as hard as you can, Rita. As I said, I rolled up my sleeves and presented my arm. Masters. Cerberus, yes, bite it as hard as you can, Rita. But, Cerberus, just do it, Rita. As I said so. Cerberus looked at Emily with a troubled face as he slowly caught hold of my arm. He chewed, but his jaw had no power put into it. It was a sweet bite. Put more strength into it, Rita. I cannot bite Master ever. Cerberus, it is necessary. I could ask for Emily's help, but Emily's a little too strong, Rita. Sir-chan, since Yoda-san said so, there must be a good reason to it, so just do it, Desu. Emily, but, Cerberus, if you bite with all you got, I'll ask Emily to make a delicious meal that could die for. Rita. Chomp. A sting was felt on my arms. The moment I threw a carrot, he took the bait and bit me. Ha. I apologize for my insolence, Cerberus. You gluttony. Rita. I gently stroked the head of Cerberus, who repeatedly apologized. I looked at my arm as it is. The place that was bitten was slightly dented with bite marks. It became wide and it hardly returned back to normal. The skin wasn't torn but dented. So it's like that. Alright, I have some place to go now. Emily, make some delicious meal for Cerberus for the time being. Rita. Yes, Disu. What does Sir Chan want to eat, Disu? Emily. Ito. Cerberus. Cerberus had a troubled but a happy look on his face. Thus I left him under Emily's care as I head out of the storeroom. After going one round, I came back to the mansion. After searching everywhere, I found Emily and Cerberus in the garden. Cerberus was beside Emily while wagging his tail round and round, and he was chewing on some bone. The bone was baked, a little burned but had an appetizing smell like grilled meat. Welcome home, Yoda-san. Emily. Welcome home, Master. Cerberus. I'm back. Did you give him something good to eat? Rita. Sir Chan seems to like meat and bones, so I made him this nano desu. Emily. Well, it is a dog. Did you bake the bone? Rita. Using the ingredients I decided to bake them nano desu. Since seasoning isn't really good for dogs, no desu. Emily. Hence you baked it. I thought giving raw bone was fine, but as expected of Emily's skills, when he gnaws at the bone he looks calmed. Rita. As such I stood in front of Cerberus, and showed him my arms again. Try biting me again. Rita. I understand, Master. Cerberus. He hesitated for a while, but compared to just now he was slightly more used to it. He then bit the arm that I presented to him. Cerberus. How is it? Rita. I can't bite through it at all. Master's arm is really tough. Cerberus. Right, Rita. So you've finally raised them up, Disu? Emily. Well, it would be a waste not to raise them to the max. Rita. I see nano desu. Emily. Cerberus was perplexed, while Emily immediately understood. Emily would know. After I took the mirror, the limiter of HP, strength, and speed has been removed and now could be raised from S to SS. And this time, as expected, with the jewel, endurance, MP, and intelligence had the limiters removed and could be raised to SS. Thus, I went around the 4th floor to raise my endurance to SS. With S endurance, Cerberus' full bite could dig into my skin, but with SS, he could no longer do so. Yoda-san has become stronger again, Disu. Emily. Emily was pleased as though it was her own achievement. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 135. Nonium Dungeon's 5th floor that has dungeon snows falling. I was currently hunting down the red skeletons that gets powered up from the magic of the snow. I held my revolver onto the head of the red skeleton as soon as it spawned from the ground. It did not try and chase me, but instead ran to the side of me to try and attack me from behind. The skeleton, which had confidence with its speed, was moving with disturbing tactics, which was unusual for a monster to do so. Though it was pretty quick, I was faster than it. The revolver resembled that of a compass as it turned a full 90 degrees and I pulled the trigger. It was just a normal bullet, and the fired bullet went straight and landed at the red skeleton. The red bones was fast, but that's all there is to it, as a normal bullet was enough to defeat it, dropping a MP seed as it vanished. Following that pattern, I continued to roam around the dungeon. Though I have the repetition magic, but I'm trying not to use it on dungeons that require less movements as much as possible. It isn't all about the status, exercising one's body is also just as important. Thus, with that in mind, I continued farming. After going round once, I collected the required MP seeds and thus went straight out of the dungeon. Outside the dungeon, I went to the only KIA board that was placed near the entrance of the dungeon. Operating it, I confirmed my status. My MP had nicely reached to SS, and looking at the status, in my mind I was like, that's cool, that's cool. As I nodded in approval of the multiple SS statuses. The city of Shikaro, a familiar magic tools store. As I entered the store owner, Isaac, appeared with a businesslike smile while rubbing his palms together. "Welcome, Sato-sama. What is it that you would like to find us for today?" "Isaac, I wish to pick a magic fruit today." "Rita, once again I see magic fruits when eaten would give various side effects." "Isaac, I know, you don't have to worry about that." "Rita, I know that he was helping me based on his kindness, but that won't be an issue. When eaten once, you would not be able to level up anymore, and if eaten a second time, the demerit would be, your current level would drop by 1. That was the reason why adventurers who wanted to eat it once would max their level first before taking a bite. That was the logic. As the magic that you learn would be random, there would be a huge risk in taking more than one of them, as the demerit would be not worth it. Hence why the shop owner, Isaac, warned me again. Though my level was 1 to begin with, I can't even level up to begin with, let alone drop the level any more than it already is. I believe that I was the only one in this world that wouldn't mind eating all them magic fruits. If Sato-san have put it in such a way, then though the magic fruits have been decreasing these days, so the value has now spiked up to 5 million euros. Isaac, can't be helped if supplies are low. Rita, that's economy for you. Regardless of everyday necessities, the price was reflected based on it being a luxury goods and also in low supply. So there's no helping when the price increased. If it was still 1 million euros, I would have bought it without hesitation. But if it was 5 million, you may as well buy a good luxurious car and still have enough for my daily allowances. Moreover, even if it's 50 million, I'll still have to somehow forge that money out in order to buy it. As it seemed to be staring at me while blinking since a while ago, there was the woman in kimono I saw the other day at the store's counter. The doll-sized translucent woman had a mirror and a jewel. The jewel that Cerberus dug up and was brought to Nonium was bowing to me several times. If she's there, that means something's in here. Please show me the magic fruit that you have. Rita, certainly, please wait for a moment. Isaac at once withdrew into the shop, and took out 3 magic fruits and arranged them neatly on the counter. These are the remaining magic fruits that we have in the store. Isaac, which do you prefer? As Isaac asked. Meanwhile, the woman moved. The woman only visible to me whilst holding a mirror and a slender ball stopped in front of the magic fruit in the middle. With a smile on my face, I gestured the middle one with a, "This please." "I'll have this one, Rita." "Thank you very much for your continued patronage, Isaac." It was the same back when I learned repetition. The woman that showed me the magic fruit must have some astounding effects. Thus I paid him with a lump sum amount of cash. As I arrived back to the mansion, I went down the basement with Emily and Cerberus. "What are you doing, Master?" Cerberus. "Pre-treating a magic fruit. Rita, is there anything I can do for you?" Cerberus. "You can just sit there and watch, Rita." As I said, I placed the magic fruit at the furthest end, and went to where Emily and Cerberus was. We waited for the magic fruit to hatch into a rogue monster. It's really great to have a basement, Disu. We have no worries that anyone would see us here, Disu. Emily. "Since doing it outside we have to be careful, and when it hatched and I don't defeat it ASAP, it'll run God knows where, which would be a hassle, Rita. If it's here then everything's solved, Nano Desu." Emily. Emily spoke with a smile on her face. After dealing with rogue monsters with a long period of time, I knew the struggles and precaution that has to be taken, as I need to keep getting a drop from rogue monsters a secret to others besides my friends. If hatching the rogue monsters outside, I had to take a distance, and if I don't defeat it quickly it might find another target and attack them instead. Though, this was all settled after having this basement. Below a private estate, the magic fruit hatched into a rogue monster. It was a metallic monster that looked exactly like me. He came straight towards me, a monster at the edge with no one but me to attack, thus it rushed towards me. Wawa, it looked exactly like Master. What should I do, Master? Cerberus. It's alright, repetition. Rita. I used magic at the rogue monster and defeat it in a blow. Unlike in a dungeon, there might be risk in damaging the mansion if a fierce battle were to be had on this basement. When hatching rogue monsters here, it's best to defeat it quickly with repetition. The rogue monster collapsed, and a magic fruit dropped. The first magic fruit had attached to it. Now the newly dropped magic fruit had two attached to it. I picked it up and ate it the same way as before. Fumu, Rita, have you learned it, Desu? Emily, yeah. One of it is heal, a recovery magic it seems. Rita, Yoda-san already has recovery bullets though no Desu? Emily, yeah. As MP could be restored to an unlimited number of times. Rita, I took out my revolver and shot myself continuously as if being injected by the infinite recovery bullet. The MP used for repetition has been healed. On to the next magic. It consumes a large amount of MP. Emily, I'm sorry but could you bring 3 portable KIA boards now? Rita, yes Desu, Emily, I'll go and retrieve it. Cerberus jumped out of the basement while wagging his tail. As per what I asked, he immediately fetched back with the portable KIA boards. Yes, here you go master. Cerberus, good job. Rita, Cerberus, I patted his head and praised him while scratching his lower part of his chin. Cerberus tilted his head while glancing at me pleasingly. Please use one of it for now. Rita, I understand. Cerberus then used the KIA board. I've used it, Cerberus. Now I'll use the magic. Rita, the moment I used the magic on Cerberus, I felt a bit dizzy as if being weakened. Yoda-san, are you alright Nano Desu? Emily, I'm fine. My MP was just fully consumed. Rita, is it such an awesome magic Nano Desu? Emily, if you say it's amazing I guess it is. Cerberus, try using the portable KIA board once more. Rita, yes, Cerberus. Immediately, Cerberus redisplayed his status as told. Then, one of it went up. Cerberus, his luck has risen from F to Edisu. Emily, that is the power of the magic. In exchange for all my MP, the magic would give a person a random ability raise for an entire day. Rita, a whole day. That's pretty impressive. Cerberus, though it being random seems inconvenient Nano Desu, plus you have to use up all your MP for a random effect. It doesn't seem to be that useful Desu. Emily, not really. Rita, I shot myself with the revolver. Using the infinite recovery bullet I healed my MP. After healing my MP, I used Quicksilver again which drained my entire MP again. That's how one uses it. Rita, I see now Nano Desu. Emily, and ultimately, Rita, from here onwards, there would be a tedious process. Recovery my MP with infinite recovery bullet, then use, then recover my MP once again. After repeating that process for about 20 times, since it overlaps it is necessary to use it a number of times. But well, it's something like that. Rita, amazing. That's really amazing master. Cerberus, it is only Yoda-san who can use these sorts of things Nano Desu. Emily, both Cerberus and Emily were deeply impressed. That consumes all MP, and with infinite recovery bullets, it doesn't really cost me anything, and I get to increase my fellow teammates' ability by 1. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 136. Cerberus. After letting Cerberus play around in the mansion, it was time to increase Emily's abilities with the. After letting Cerberus play around in the mansion, it was time to increase Emily's abilities with the. Similar to Cerberus, I used the skill for about 20 times and confirmed the effects after Emily used the portable KIA board. I see, so this is what happens, Rita. This is what happens Desu. Emily, the both of us looked at the statuses as we agreed at the same time. For Emily, her HP, strength, and stamina had already reached its cap which were all A. Thus, besides those 3, the rest were cleanly upped by 1. I don't think this is a coincidence either, Rita. Yes Desu, only Yoda-san is able to obtain S Nano Desu. Emily, well, it is a fact that it was the same with the other magics that I've learned. Even though all of these are strong, but these magics have already exists in this world, so similar with. But this is sufficient Nano Desu. Emily, I guess so, having to max every stats to at. After checking the results of the new magic, we were satisfied. Suddenly, outside the window, rain started pouring. Not just the rain, but the outside suddenly darkened. It was pouring down to the point that it was leaking through the windows. It's raining Desu. As expected of Yoda-san. You're amazing Desu, Emily. Mew, that had nothing to do with me though, Rita. Even if it's raining and it gets wet from the dungeon, I can return home Desu. It's all thanks to Yoda-san no Desu, Emily. Ah, Rita, I see what she was trying to say. Just a while ago, when at such times, you would get wet quite often when coming back from the dungeon, thus it takes time. Now it wasn't a problem. It was quite the opposite. I'm home. It's raining. Alice's voice could be heard from outside the room. I can't tell when I was inside the dungeon, so the first thing I noticed after returning home was the rain. Alice. Exactly Desu, Emily. This is really convenient. Plus, Rita. Plus? Alice. I'm pretty sure the possibility that Orem isn't raining right now. Ah, plus if we can widen our scope, we could go to any place any time of the day we like. Rita. That's wonderful Nano Desu, Emily. Emily held her hands together with glimmering eyes. With the sudden rain, we discovered new possibilities for the teleportation room. Mew. All of a sudden, we shivered. A tremendous chill ran up our spines. Bloodthirst. We immediately looked at each other and ran straight to where the bloodthirst was. We arrived at the front of the teleportation room, and there we saw Eve and Cerberus facing each other. Eve with her usual poker face, and the other side was Cerberus with a threatening pose while lying down. Still big. Cerberus was sending out bloodthirst enough to freeze the spine. Doggy. What are you, Eve? I'm Master's watchdog. I'll defeat all of Master's enemies. Cerberus. Bunny is this mansion's bunny. I'll eat up every carrot that is inside this mansion. Eve. Even though Eve's speech was somewhat weird, but the tenseness between the two of them were rising. This is a dangerous situation. If this keeps up, blood will be splat. Well, I'll just have to stop it before that happens. Cerberus is still a watchdog, so he would eliminate any foreign enemies that he doesn't know, so I could just order him to stop. While remembering the strong bloodthirst, I was trying to stop Cerberus, and at that time, Goro. A bright light shone from outside the window, and soon after the thunder roared. It didn't even take a second before the thundering sound was made after it striked. That was fine and all, but now's not that time. The moment after the lightning strike, Cerberus ran the opposite direction of the enemy, Eve, slipping under the desk, and ran straight to Emily, the small Emily, and the large Cerberus. Our watchdog rolled down its body and tail after running under Emily. But when looking from the side it looked like Emily was on the back. Cerberus. Rita. I'm not scared. I'm Master's watchdog, so some lightning won't scare me. Cerberus. I didn't even say anything though. Rita. Cerberus. Cerberus, who dug his own grave, hid his red face with his paws. What's more, the intruder. I'm prepared. Cerberus. I was relieved that the bloodthirsty had stopped, though he was still staring at the enemy. Eve. Again. Goro. Kaya. Cerberus. Another lightning strikes and rattled as a scream was heard. He don't look that reliable. Good boy. It's not scary, okay no Desu? Emily. Being under Emily, Emily was stroking Cerberus's head gently while comforting him. Resembling a mother's care, he was comforting the scared Cerberus. What is that thing? Eve asked. It's a watchdog that belongs to the family today. His name's Cerberus. Rita. A dog? Eve. It's a dog, Rita. Then that's fine. Dog eats bones, so it's not Bunny's enemy. Eve. Since dogs are omnivorous, I thought that it would be possible for them to eat carrots, but I did not say it out loud. The third time, lightning strikes. Cerberus was mercilessly scared, while Emily gently stroked him. What would happen if I throw in a cockroach slime over there? Eve. Please stop with your jokes. I can only picture hell if that were to happen. Rita. While stabbing a nail on Eve, I could see Emily being fond of Cerberus. Afterwards, Celeste and Alice, who came back afterwards, we explained all the trouble, as Elsa also heard. With Cerberus being a part of our team, I declared that Cerberus should learn the smell of everyone. With that, a reliable watchdog was added to our home. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 137. After raining and night came, the streets of Shikaro, a bar with delicious beer called Rita family was gathered over there. Inside the spacious bar, sitting at the furthest back possible, me, Emily, Celeste, Eve, and Alice, all five of us were sitting at a table. Next to them, Cerberus was sitting with his upper body upright, looking at the entire bar with a ferocious face. While we were eating and drinking, Cerberus played the role of a respectable watchdog. Oi, that is Cerberus, right? Ain't that the watchdog of hell? Da heck, it's eating food from that tiny child. That. Everyone in the bar was eyeing on us, and were gossiping here and there, carrying the dishes and beers that we ordered. As soon as the bar's poster girl with an apron and a hood approached us, Cerberus stood up, larger than a normal human. He exposed his teeth while looking down at her. The poster girl was shaking in fear. Cerberus, she's working for this bar, so it's okay. As soon as I ordered him, he sat back down. The poster girl, that felt relieved, placed the food and drinks on the table. I'm sorry for frightening you. It's already okay, Rita. Is that so? Yeah, look, Rita. Beside the poster girl, who was still a little afraid, Alice brought the dishes that was brought and placed them in front of Cerberus. Wagging his tail like mad, Alice showed a smiling face as she took one of the dishes and lets him eat. That figure was totally like a dog. Our dog is pretty obedient. It would not attack if I say that person's not an enemy, though if it is, then he wouldn't show any mercy, Rita. That's right. Though it's big, but it's still a dog. Do you wanna try touching him? Emily, Emily asked the surprised poster girl. If you give Bunny bonus carrot dishes, she'll let you touch her. Eve, is that really alright? Sir, come here, Celeste called for Cerberus as he sat in front of her. While laying down, she stroked her head with a rhythmic movement. Here, you try, Celeste. Then, thank you. Rub rub. As the poster girl stroked the head of Cerberus, Cerberus allowed her to do so. The owner, Rita family, ordered him, therefore the poster girl could caress him. She was even caressing his body. So obedient. Being able to tame the hell dog. Rita family is strong. Hun, it ain't that great. That's cause that Cerberus is at its first form. Your voice is trembling though. Plus the number one most frightening thing is an obedient watchdog being tamed by its owner to only listen to them and mercilessly attacking enemy is the scariest. Listening to various gossips while being satisfied, all of us made eye contact and agreed. It is to appeal to everyone that our family has Cerberus now. Although Cerberus is a rogue monster originated from, the objective of bringing him to the bar is so that we could appeal everyone of the perfectly tamed dog. Afterwards, things conveniently happened further from here. My voice ain't trembling, but it sounds like it. What did I say? Huh? A fight broke out at a distance. One of the guy flipped the table upside down, and the other guy kicked the table off. The kicked table flew over here. Cerberus chewed on the table, which flew straight here, interrupting the table that was flying against me. He opened his huge mouth and bit it. The 8-man table was shattered in a flash. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr ferocious face without me saying anything. Though the scene wasn't as scripted, but the surrounding went silent, overwhelmed by the watchdog of hell of the Rita family. "It's okay, Cerberus, it was just an accident." "It isn't an enemy," I quietly said, and Cerberus stopped growling and had a pose from just a moment ago where the poster girl was allowed to easily stroke him. Amazing. He really is obedient enough to listen to orders. Anyways, look at that. That dog hasn't eaten the food yet. That's true. What's wrong with that? Dogs are classified as a living thing in a family, so before the head of the house eats, they do not eat first. The family head. Various lines of sights gathered to me after some story was told. This was truly convenient, as I took the food that was carried here and placed it on my mouth. After eating it, Cerberus began eating as if given permission to eat. Then cheers rose from within the bar. "Rita family is seriously awesome, Litaf. They always surprise us each time. This Ritasitu, a fearful man. Let's not do anything to go against that family." Yeah, someone that I know also said the same thing. While listening to various words, Cerberus was perceived as my dog, and after that rumor was spread, my purpose of coming here today was finally fulfilled. After going home, I relaxed inside my room. Lots of things happened today, so it was time to head to bed. Someone knocked on the door. Who's that? Rita. It's me, Master. Cerberus. Cerberus, huh? Rita. I got up and opened the door, where Cerberus was sitting in the hallway. Like the Hukiko statue, he is sitting all roundly like a faithful dog, but there was still a sense of intimidation as his body was large. What's wrong? Don't like your new room? Rita. No, it's nothing of that sort. Thank you very much, Master. I did not think that Master would trouble himself to allow me to have a room all by myself. Cerberus. Is that so? Fumu. I guess if it's a room for humans, it's hard for you to go in and out. Rita. I gave Cerberus a room within the mansion, but seeing that he had to knocked a little while ago, I thought that it wasn't easy to use. I'll call the agency by tomorrow to remodel the room for you, so it will be easy to live. Rita. That's unnecessary. I'm alright with what I have. I'm grateful enough to die just by having a room with a roof on top of me. Cerberus. Let's keep that sentence for next week. Emily is here, thus there is still more happiness than now. Rita. Thank you so much, Master. Cerberus. Cerberus lowered his body down so as I would look down at him from above. I'm happy to be picked up by Master. I never dream of sleeping in such a warm room with delicious food. Cerberus. I see, Rita. Hence, I'm really grateful for what you've done for me, Master. Cerberus. Cerberus seemed to be happy while facing at me. Just because he is a rogue monster, he was forced to eat leftovers from garbage. Him being able to show such a face right now, I was happy for him. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 138. After eating breakfast, in front of the transportation room, I've applied the new magic Quicksilver. Using once, I could restore my MP entirely with infinite recovery bullets, and use it again. After raising the statuses of my teammates, they went into the dungeon. Emily and Celeste needed to be used for a few times, as both of them have few statuses reaching A-. Well, it's not like it costs anything. Although it used up my entire MP, it can immediately be recovered with infinite recovery bullet, so it was only a matter of time whether it would land on the stats we want. After sending out Emily, Celeste, and Alice, finally it was Eve's turns. You wearing your costume today? Rita. A bunny became a rabbit. Eve. Well, to me, Eve has been a rabbit all the time when we first met, but before that you were wearing a bunny suit. Rita. Recently, that has been called a four-eared bunny. Eve. Four? Oh, your own plus the costumes, is it? Rita. Yes, Bunny is happy. Eve. So he's happy. Eve had her cheeks slightly dyed red. It looked like she was joking, but she looked really happy. The only strange friend of mine, Eve, Carl's leader. There were still some characteristics I couldn't grasp from her yet. Well, it's not like it's urgent to know right now. Well then, I'll cast the magic on you now, Rita. It's good, Eve. It's good? Rita. If you want to buff me, give me a carrot. Eve. Isn't that comparison kinda odd? Rita. Give me a carrot if you want to buff me. Eve. It was like a certain childlike line. You sure you don't need any buffs? Rita. Eve quietly nodded. But carrots are nice, Eve. I'll hunt some later. Rita. I want carrot sashimi tonight, Eve. While having a slightly red cheek, Eve used the transportation room as it was and went out to the dungeon. What kind of sashimi is a carrot sashimi? Well, if I tell that to Emily, that sort of dish would be made. Well, I've sent everyone out. Should I also head to the dungeon too? Ah, good morning, Rita-san. This time Elsa appeared, though strictly not our teammates, but she is still someone who lives in this mansion, as she would come to our home to buy our stuff. Morning. Everyone has went out, so take care of me again for today, Rita. Yes, Elsa. Also, if this is possible too, I would like to get a KIA board here, Rita. Ah, I heard that you've gotten a room that can go to any dungeon. I understand. I'll try and sort it out, Elsa. It's true that we have an entrance to any dungeon, and now having. It's really inefficient to check the effects of. It should be available by tomorrow. Elsa, that fast? Rita, because Rita-san is a super loyal customer. Elsa, I see. Rita, facing each other. Elsa had a huge smile on her face. Master. This time Cerberus came. Our huge watchdog walked through the hallway while wagging his tails. Are you heading out now, Master? Cerberus, yeah, I'm going to go for work in the dungeon. This room is directly linked to a dungeon, so do not enter even if you made a mistake. Rita, I understand, Cerberus, and also please guard Elsa when we're out. She's an important person to me. Rita, huh? Elsa was surprised, and her face turned red at once. Because you're an important customer, Elsa. My words were probably misunderstood. Well, it wasn't a mistake even if I said she was an important person, but for the time being let's not say that. I understand. I'll do my best as my master's watchdog, Cerberus. Good. Elsa, you can depend on Cerberus. If the weather gets worse, then you can use Cerberus as a shield. Master, that's terrible, Cerberus. Well, even though I said that, Rita, because I depend on you, Rita. Garuru. Cerberus raised a low growling voice. The monster named Cerberus, a gigantic watchdog, a big figure with a lot of killing intent. I opened the window and shot the infinite lightning bullet outside, landing on the ground. Thunder and explosion roared. Kaya Ain. Cerberus. Cerberus rolled into a ball and was frightened. Though it was a ferocious watchdog, he was vulnerable to lightning. While smiling bitterly to the frightened Cerberus, I talked to Elsa. Well, if the weather breaks down, this is what happens, so even if you wanted to use him to shield you, he would have already escaped, Rita. Of course I was jokingly saying it, and Elsa smiled happily. Sob. Master is horrible. Cerberus. I held Cerberus' hands and shook it while he was throwing a tantrum, and I headed for the dungeon using the transportation room. Nonium Dungeon, 6th floor. While being invincible with the absolute rocks item, I headshot the poison zombie with normal bullets that was releasing poison. Intelligence seeds dropped from the defeated zombies, and I slowly raised my intelligence by picking it up. People in this world raise their level, which raises their statuses. But me being me, my level is affixed to level 1, which is already the highest. But because of this dungeon dropping the seeds that made a path for me, to prevent myself from being dull and rusty, I used a shield today. When I met a monster, and if they are aware of my existence, I'll immediately kill them. If not, I'll take advantage of the topography and approach them like a ninja, and aim for assassination from close range. Although it did not go well at the beginning, I gradually became to understand how to erase my footsteps, how to fade, and how to wrap around. Different from other dungeons, this is a place where you do not need to raise efficiency that much. Plus it's a place to raise my skills, so it was a good place for me to practice, while practicing techniques that do not appear in motion or status. Thus today, I constantly hunted for poison zombies. My intelligence went from C to B. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 139. After a day of hard work was completed in the dungeon, I went back by the transportation room, and as I opened the door, Elsa suddenly appeared in front of me. Welcome back, Rita-san. Elsa, were you waiting for me? Rita, there's a guest here to see you. Elsa, a guest? Rita, the association leader has come to see you. Elsa, even I know that much, as he furrowed his eyebrows, showing wrinkles. It was Clint from the Dungeon Association, coming here unnoticed. All this time he would meet up with me urgently if something is happening. Thus, I'm pretty sure that's the case for today as well. Is he inside the mansion right now? Rita, yes, in the living room, and also, Elsa, and also? Rita, at the garden, there's a large sum of sugar, Elsa, eh? Rita. After Elsa finished her sentence, I looked out the window. Just as Elsa described, on the garden basking in the dawn of the sun, there were large piles of sugar cubes stacked amongst each other, estimating at around 2-3 truckload of them. Was it the 1-year supply of sugar cubes Clint was always going on about? This is too much. If it were a Tashtama, so he's paying up front first, huh? Must be a large case this time, Rita. Yes, a rather troublesome issue has arrived, Elsa. Oh, does Elsa know about it? Rita. I've heard it back at the shop, the Swallow's repayment. I've only heard bits and pieces of it, so I'm too sure either, Elsa. Fumu, Rita. Even though Elsa said that, but it might be a possibility that the situation would get worse as I heard it top to bottom. Mentally preparing myself as I thought, I head towards the living room. As I entered the living room, sitting on the sofa, munching sounds could be heard, as I saw Clint gnawing at the sugar cubes on his mouth like a rodent. Before he could finish the current sugar cubes on his mouth, he had already stuffed another one onto his mouth and swallowed it whole. Your throat, would it be alright? Clint stood up, and greeted me with both his hands spread open. Ooh, you finally came back, Satu. I was waiting for you, you know. Shikaro's benefactor, Clint. I'll refuse your request for now, Rita. You're mean, Clint said as he showed a dejected look on his face. Well, that's because I know what would happen after this. If this were to be the norm when we meet all the time, then if something enormous happens, how would I escape at that time? Even though I believe that Satu wouldn't be that sort of human, Clint. Anyways, what did you come here for? Bringing in that mountain load full of sugars with you, Rita. Sitting on the sofa, Clint sat back down as he told me his story. Are you familiar with the Clifford? Nope, not at all, Rita. It's the family that virtually monopolized the 6th to 10th floor of Bismuth, Clint. Bismuth, Rita. There are 7 dungeons in total owned by Shikaro. Tararu, Silicon, Arsenic, Bismuth, Boron, mistaken as Bolan previously, also Nonium, which drops absolutely nothing, plus Solon that is outside of the town, which makes that 7 in total. One of them was Bismuth. Thus far, I've never needed to head there, thus never stepped foot into that dungeon before. So what's the matter with those Clifford guys and Bismuth? Rita, do you know that Bismuth's 6th to 10th floors mainly drop wheat? Clint, and? Rita, the only place dropping wheat are there in Shikaro, Clint. Did they block up the dungeon like the previous case? Rita, it's slightly different from before, Clint. Care to elaborate? Rita, the method to defeat the monsters on the 6th to 10th floor of Bismuth are very special. Not everyone could do it, and the only adventurers that were issued to do so were the. I see, Rita. Having 97% would basically meant monopolizing everything. Honestly, I'm troubled by it. They didn't take this into an extreme measure. Simply put, I won't work if it was less than this price, is what they said, Clint. So it was different from the. Cliff nodded. Previously, some idiot tried to monopolize the rice by prevented others from entering. But this was a different case, because we're the only ones doing it best, thus we could control the price as we pleased. In a sense, it follows the market principle, Rita. But that would be a problem. If the wheat isn't produced anymore, the citizens would make a huge fuss about it, Clint. Well, that's true. Rice, wheat, and potato. These are the top 3 primary products that would cause a huge uproar if it were to disappear. Rice and wheat are staple foods. Not to mention, potatoes, though this would be the case on Earth, it is one of the top calorie intakes, surpassing rice even. Well, putting all those aside, losing the production of wheat would cause an uproar to the city. If the prices were to increase, then what would happen? Rita, I want to clear this problem before that could happen. Anyways, we want to stabilize necessity items in the market as much as possible, Clint. I see. Rita, if such a story were to be broadcasted, and something similar were to happen again, confusion would happen all the time, Clint. You have a point, Rita. If it was a luxury item, then do whatever you want with it, but something like wheat, it's best to stabilize the prices as much as possible. It's easily understood. Thus, Clint looked at me. Can you do something about it? Clint said as he tossed an unreasonable challenge to me once again. So, that was the gist, Rita. Evening, and in the living room, I gathered my friends to talk about the story that Clint brought. Emily, Celeste, Alice, Eve, and Elsa, who has been dispatched here, and our newly added Cerberus. I've gathered everyone and explained the situation. Bismuth's 6th to 10th floor, huh? Celeste, do you know something about it, Celeste? Rita, yeah, well, it is a rather famous place. Information is circulating. and everyone can't do anything about it. Celeste can't do anything? Rita, yeah. It's a bit different if one were to seriously do it, no matter how much effort they put in, but the payoff is too little. Celeste, I see. Rita, I sort of understood the story. What is most important to adventurers in this world is efficiency. A world where everything is dropped in dungeons, meaning farming the same monsters to get the same drops every day to earn a living. Plus, farming is also meant to exclude danger from sight. Adventurers in this world would not risk themselves to do things that wouldn't benefit their effort. Looking at it from a gaming perspective, if you're playing an RPG game, then even when you're level 10 you would still defeat things lower level than you. That's how the adventurers are in this world. So is there some way to do this? Rita, it's possible, Celeste said. Amongst us, she is the most knowledgeable and answered immediately without hesitation. What should we do? Rita, the strategy is simple. Everyone support Rita-san and defeat it in one go. Celeste, TLN, wow, it really is. Finishing her sentence in one go, I immediately understood her idea. And then it's alright to just fire repetition afterwards, right, Rita? Yep, this could be possible because Rita-san having the ultimate farming magic repetition and unlimited recovery bullet at his disposal. Celeste, I see. As expected, Yoda-san is great no desu. The problem at hand has already been decided that it would succeed no desu? Emily added, it's true that repetition and unlimited recovery bullet is a fearsome combo to mass-produce stuff. Doing it all the time is bothersome. Eve pointed out, it's nice to shoot repetition with infinite recovery bullet, but this time I would have to fill in the 97% gap and 97% is the consumption of the entire city which is flourishing. Speaking of work, this would be an enormous amount of work, but I think it would be fine. This time Elsa said, in the case of we're the ones capable of doing it, thus we control the price. If someone else were to be able to do it, then they would retreat as they would collapse. Elsa. That's true, Rita. The problem that we should be worrying is being attacked by outsiders. Elsa. Outsiders? Rita. Taking the opponent's family as hostage. Those kinds of things. Elsa. Ah. That's what she meant. If that were the case, please leave it to me. I would protect the mansion in Master's stead. Cerberus. Ah, I'll leave that to you, Cerberus. Rita. Yes, Cerberus. As the watchdog of our home said so, Gururu, as he growled loudly. If there aren't any lightning, he would be pretty reliable. As such, let's move immediately, shall we? I said as my fellow friends all nodded in agreement. Bismuth Dungeon. 6th floor. Alice and I arrived here with the transportation room. I was surprised the moment I entered the dungeon. This is amazing, Rita. Yes, it's beautiful. Alice, agreeing with Alice's feeling. It is indeed a beautiful dungeon. There is a thing called a bismuth crystal. Similar to that, the bismuth dungeon has an angular structure which shines entirely in rainbow color. The stone that broke the wall of the dungeon is also a product of it, which made it beautiful as well. Alice and I who came here were the first group. Rather, Alice is important for this mission, as Celeste said. Still, there really is nobody, Rita. This place seems difficult, Alice. Moreover, not a single adventurer nor monsters are on site, Rita. I looked around the vicinity of the dungeon. Yep, there weren't any monsters. Amid the vast dungeon shining in rainbow colors, only me and Alice were standing apart. That's not true, Alice said as she looked around the dungeon. Ah, over there. Counting down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alice looked straight and counted down. As soon as the countdown reaches 0, a monster appeared as if seeping out from space. It was a small-sized chameleon. So that's the monster? Rita. Yep. It seems to only appear for 5 seconds every 10 minutes. Alice. Oh, that's true. It's gone now. I see. This is rather inefficient, Rita. I sort of understood it now. This mass production is difficult unless you have a special way to produce it. I looked at Alice. The countdown just now. It means you know the timing of when it would appear, right? Rita. Yep, I can grasp it. Look, over there. In about 15 seconds one ahead of me would appear. Alice. Looking at where Alice pointed, another individual appeared as she declared. It appeared, then disappeared again after 5 seconds. It appears that you can't attack it when it disappears, and it's pretty hard to spot something of that appearance, so if you make a slight mistake, it would quickly escape. Alice. I see, this certainly is annoying, Rita. I comprehended the scenario and was relieved at the same time. Repetition doesn't even need a second to trigger, and if Alice could point out the spots for me, it would be easy to do so after the second one. If we could defeat one, then the rest would be no problem. I could see victory before my eyes. Thus, I'm thinking about how to make the maximum firepower necessary to defeat the first one. Where is the next one coming? Rita. While asking Alice, I proceeded with preparations. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 140. Bismuth Dungeon 6th floor. With the help of Alice's guide, I was now defeating Chameleon with repetition. Rita. Testing it once, the chameleon went transparent again, and after it was completely gone I fired repetition. The chameleon's movements were slow, so even if they turned transparent it should still remain at somewhat the same spot. Hence I fired to see whether my theory was right or not. It's not working, Alice. It looks like it. I guess it's better to think of it as them turning invincible rather than becoming transparent. Rita. Even though repetition is a magic that allows you to defeat a monster in one shot, the recognized chameleon could not be defeated. When they're invincible, it's best to think that there's nothing we can do to defeat it unless it comes out again. Even with the strongest class magic, it could not defeat a chameleon once it went into its invincible state. It makes sense that there are less adventurers who could defeat such monster. Rita. Yeah, Alice. But you do know when it appears, right? Rita. Of course. Alice. With such confidence, she raised both her thumbs up. If that's the case, then let's seriously do this. Let's get them wheat and send them back using the magic cart. Rita. Yes, Alice. Thus, Alice and I went around Bismuth Dungeon's 6th floor round and around. While walking through the multi-layered rainbow-colored walls of the bismuth crystals themselves, I defeated the chameleons with repetition after spotting one from Alice, and sent the wheat using the magic cart. We did that for some time, and a transportation ball was floating right of our eyes. Who came here from the mansion, was what I thought when the entire teammates came all at once. Emily, Celeste, and Eve, the three of them. Cerberus could not come due to being a rogue monster, and Elsa, who had to manage the wheat supply, could not leave too, so these were all of us. Good work, Nano Desu. Emily. It looks like it's going rather well. Celeste. What's wrong, everyone? Rita. I stopped my hands, and when I asked them, Emily, Celeste, and even Eve all turned to look at me. The bunny costume wearing Eve with her usual reserved face was seen. Don't mind us. If there's nothing right, then it's all good. Eve. What does that even mean? Rita. We have no idea either, no Desu. Emily. It's better if you just spill it out. Then we would know, or at least know what you want. Celeste. Emily and Celeste had a confused expression. Apparently they also seem to be out of the mosquito net, meaning you are placed in a position where you do not understand what's going on. I looked at Eve. Eve Karlsrider, aka. I wonder if there's any speculation. I got it. Do whatever you like. Rita. Are you alright with that? Celeste furrowed her eyebrows. Since I've taken someone as hostage, Eve that is. Rita. Hostage Nano Desu? Emily. I'm the only one being able to get an S-drop carrot. Rita. Regrettable ... but annoying. Eve. Eve jokingly said, as she picked up carrots out of her costume and chew at it raw. She really does love her carrots. Meanwhile, Emily and Celeste seemed convinced. The carrots that I produce with S-drop seem to have a distinctly different taste than the rest, and the reason why Eve was in our team was mainly because of that reason. If that was gone, it seemed like I would be at a disadvantage, was what they came to a reasonable understanding, and thus was convinced. Meanwhile, Alice had a grin on her face, and struck my side with her elbow, whispered to me, "Oh, you're not a frank person, huh, Rita? Even though you just have to normally trust Eve." Alice. That goes without saying, as it is a trust. Anyways, Rita. Fumu. That's true too. Alice. Besides, Eve is more pleased with that. A girl who only loves carrots. Isn't it more pleasing to see someone with a face like that, Rita? Hey? Alice. Alice had some interesting thoughts, and went to where Eve was, in front of the girl who was still chewing at her carrots. So Eve is a girl who only loves carrots, huh? Alice, as she repeated what I just said to her, word for word. Then, it seemed that the rainbow-colored cave shone even more. They're like a close friend to me, Eve. Eve showed a tremendous energy and smiled, one that was never seen before on her. It was a smile that was causing her reserved character to collapse. Ooh, amazing. Alice was moved. I don't have to try anything for today. As Eve seemed pleased, Alice returned to me. That's amazing. It's exactly as Rita said. Alice. I guess so, Rita. Yes, I'm amazed you understand your friends so well. Alice. I don't think it's worthy of a praise, but alright. Being embarrassed by Alice's praise, I resumed hunting chameleon asses. Alice became our radar, and I used repetition to instantly kill. Emily and Celeste then picked up the wheat as if it was strawberry hunting while sending it to the magic cart. Thus, the relaxing period continued, but it was broken in a flash. Strange men came down from the upper floors, and went past us as he went down further. There were those who were smiling, and those who were glaring at me with their eyes. The number count was 10. The one thing in common about them is their enmity towards us. Oh, this is quite grande. Sorry, but you have to stop right now. If you feel hurt, then blame it on yourself, young man. If you're doing this, many people would not be able to do their business. You hear me? After they said so, they further strengthened their hostility at us, especially when Emily, Celeste, and at the same time Eve came. Are those them Nano Desu? Emily. I see. So these are the people that would trouble Rita-san's progression. Celeste. A somewhat common scenario. Eve. Eve nodded quietly and said, I see. So that's why Eve invited everyone over. The men attacked all at once. Emily, Celeste, and Eve, who understood the circumstances, intercepted them. Emily jumped with her hammer first towards them, whereas Eve ran towards them with her small feet and used her special move, certain kill chop. Celeste, from a former garbage disposal and now changing occupation to an adventurer, she had gotten used to fighting, and on her left the bicorn horn firing a barrage of fire, and on her right casting inferno. Towards the 10 opponents, the 3 of them did not even move back, and was even overwhelming their opponents. Phew, something's not right, Desu? Emily. Emily suddenly shouted at the man, who smiled cynically. You fell for it. Our goal wasn't to destroy you, but to stop you guys from working. What the heck are they saying? As I tried thinking and immediately knew what their motive was. Bloodthirst could be felt directly from above. The bloodthirst could not be compared to these men. It was an inorganic-like bloodthirst. The bloodthirst was straightforward and thought nothing other than killing. While you're here, you've attracted that over here. It was careless of you guys. I've already known such a thing, Eve quietly said as the man was surprised while saying, Nani? It wasn't just Eve, but Emily and Celeste stopped moving, and wasn't surprised. Rather, they were smiling a little. Then the bloodthirst closed in, as I approached, kicking the ground lightly, and dropped, rushing there immediately. After momentarily descended at a SS speed, I ran behind those guys and surprised them with an attack, doing a standard body blow with a strength of SS. Their body bent in a shape to the extent that their heads and legs were almost sticking together. The guy that was struck by me was flown into the rainbow-colored wall of bismuth. I know that low level is being targeted. Eve. Yes, Desu? I rather have Yoda-san deal with the strongest opponent. Emily. Rita-san is overwhelmingly stronger than us, right, Celeste? While my teammates were saying such light-hearted things, I beat the gangs to a pulp. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 141. For the next day, I went to Bismuth Dungeon's 6th floor to hunt. Alice would locate the monsters for me, whereas I'll use then sending the drops off using the magic cart. After firing, thinking about when I was attacked yesterday, I prepared for my MP, and HP too, to be at full at all times. This cake is really delicious, right? Celeste, it's a cake made out of pumpkin nano desu, and it's obviously the pumpkins from Yoda-san nano desu. Emily, low levels carrots are number one, Eve. And in the same dungeon, my teammates were here with me as well. Placing a sheet on the ground with the bismuth crystals around it, they were having a picnic on it. They looked completely relaxed while having a picnic in a dungeon. Well then, let's do our best for today as well. You adventurers that were passing by this floor would look at this phenomenon and get surprised. Emily with her hammer, Celeste with her bicorn, and Eve aligning her fingers together to form a chopping motion. They would immediately be vigilant to any unrelated adventurers that passed by this floor to the next floor. We're so grateful, being protected by all these ladies, Alice. That's right, because of everyone we could give our all into hunting for monsters. Rita, I was really grateful to all of them as I was hunting down the chameleons. While continuing, another adventurer passed by. Similar to just now, they immediately stayed vigilant at the adventurer. Though, the adventurer wasn't surprised but instead stared at us for some time. After looking at them, he turned and stared at me, and, as if nothing ever happened, he walked away. Though nothing happened, the girls were even more cautious than ever by their behaviors. That guy was staring at us just now, desu? Emily. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is a member of the quite high level, Eve. But he did not come and attack us, desu? Emily. Just staring at us gives me the creeps. Celeste. No matter how many comes, it'll be fine. A carrot is dangling in front of Bunny. Eve. Yes, desu. I'll not let anyone bother Yoda-san, desu? Emily. That's right. No matter how many comes, we'll stop them. Celeste. My teammates were all very reliable. Wait a minute, Eve. Are you sure about that? Saying that a carrot is dangling in front of you. TLN. Being baited, debated? I'm not sure. Having the three of them protecting me made me feel at ease. I'll defeat the chameleon the best I can. Defeating the best I could, and getting the dropped wheat. I managed to burn earnings to cover one city's one-day consumption, and night came. Thus, I managed to complete Clint's request, and, by the sidelines, the earnings for today has reached 5 million Piro. Morning. Guess I'll do my best at bismuth for today as well. Oh, better get up from bed and get out of my room. Yoda-san, you're here just in time, desu? Emily. You have something to ask me, Emily? Rita. The association chief is here to see you, desu? Emily. Clint is? Rita. Also, welcome back, nano desu? Emily. Emily looked behind me and greeted someone. When I turned back, I could see the appearance of Eve. Eve, who came walking from the other side of the corridor, has her usual lack of emotion on her face. How was it, desu? Emily. It's there. Probably same as usual. Eve. What does that mean? Don't just connect by ourselves. Can you tell me what's going on? Rita. It's alright, desu. You'll soon know after meeting up with Clint-san, desu? Emily. Fumu. Rita. With Emily's tone of voice, I could somehow guess what's gonna happen. I changed and washed my face, and with my morning dress I went towards the living room. It's the ace of Shikoro. Clint. Standing up from the sofa, he came running towards me to give me a hug, but I dodged him. With quite some strength coming straight towards me, his face went smacking against the wall behind me. Ah, ouch, that's horrible, Situ. How could you dodge me, Clint? No, normally one would avoid, though. Having an old man with sugar stains around his mouth came running towards me. Rita. Clint indeed had sugar stains on his mouth after crashing into the wall. If I did not avoid that, those sugars would have stained my clothes. I went and sat on the sofa, and urged him to sit down too. So, what do you want from me today? Rita. I see, Rita. I knew it. You don't seem fazed. Guess you heard it from your teammates, huh? Clint. Yeah, Eve did say as per usual, so I sorta guessed it. So the purpose this time is to return to normal, Rita. Clint quickly nodded. The conversation today, to summarize into one sentence, it was negotiating the increase in price. After being in a state of oligopoly, they're negotiating a price increase, so I straight up said, if you mind it then stop oligopoly then. In fact, the Rita family was able to supply the necessary amount for Shikoro. Besides, I'm not doing anything wrong. Though I foiled their plans, The production of wheat itself wasn't particularly wrong. If that happens, the other side only loses some, as they would not have income unless they farm in the dungeon. So, while it was worth doing it if the value goes up, but if it does not, their loss would be much more higher, hence why they returned and did their usual route. You understand just from the words as per usual, Clint. We were seen yesterday. He is probably from the... I see, there were already indications, Clint. Yeah, thus I understood, Rita. Clint nodded as if he got it. Afterwards, he looked straight at me in the eyes. Thank you Satu for helping us yet again. This gratitude of mine, Clint. Please pardon me from a year's worth of sugar, Rita. I formed my hands into an X mark, and tears came out of Clint's eyes. You really meant what you said. No, you were really going to do it, Rita. The sugars did no wrong. Satu is the best. Clint. Yeah, sure, Rita. Although he just emphasized, I felt that I would get diabetes merely by hearing him say it. Well, in any case, with that, my normal live has returned. There might be grudges from mother, but in the meantime, a suspicious person. It's the enemy of master. Cerberus. I have a reliable watchdog at home too. My teammates are all strong too. It's all good. Thank you Satu. Really, thanks, Clint. The sugar freak Clint looked straight to me and showed his sincere thank you. In addition to checking over the other side, I'll pay the same amount as how much wheat you hunted, Clint. Alright, Rita. The 2 days of my earning was doubled. Putting in what I normally earn per day, the total was 50 million peros. Seeing that amount, I'd gotten slightly excited. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 142. Resolving the wheat case. Today was a free day for me, so, in the morning I dived into Nonium Dungeon's 6th floor, and defeated some poison zombie. In case something happens, I'll definitely not miss out on practice. Today, I decided to challenge myself on sniping. Loading the normal bullets into the revolvers, I first explore the furthest distance that I can take to defeat them in a single blow. It turns out that the max distance to get a headshot was about 30 meters. If I fired at a distance beyond that, the bullet wouldn't be able to penetrate it and in return not killing it. Understanding the approximate distance, when I encountered a poison zombie, I would retreat back and take a distance. Retreating to a distance that was measured beforehand, I whip out my revolver, aim at the poison zombie with one eye closed. The poison zombie slowly approached, moaning while releasing poison. Firmly grasping the target, fire. The first bullet grazed the cheeks of the zombie. Only the ears were gouged out. It was way out of my initial target. I took a deep breath, and restart my position. Then again, aimed and fired. This time the head was blown off. It wasn't a sniper rifle, but sniping with a revolver. Then, I continued to practice with that in mind. Even at this distance, if I used the homing bullets, it would be a one-shot, and it's not that different with repetition either. Though till the end, I used the normal bullets to snip, not knowing when this would be necessary, but for the time being I practiced doing it. The first few time was less than 30% inaccuracy. Gradually that number rose, and before morning ended, my intelligence too rose from beta, and so too my accuracy, coming up to about 50%. In regards to sniping, I seem to still have much room for improvement. In the afternoon, I went to Turu and after that I went back to the mansion. Rita-san, you have a guest over. Elsa, who stood in front of the teleportation room, greeted me. A guest? Rita. Yes, it's his first time over. His name is Leon Baker. Elsa. Leon Baker. Rita. Repeating his name, it seemed to be a name I heard for the first time. For now, I know that he's a guy. What should I do? Elsa. Is he still here? Rita. Inside the living room. Elsa. Then let's meet him. Rita. Something might happen again. There also might be people who are in need. I decided to meet with him, face to face. Handing the items for Elsa to check, I left for the living room by myself. Knocked once. I went in. The man who was sitting on the sofa stood up and looked at me. He looked round the latter half of his 20s. He looks to be a gentleman with properly maintained beard. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Leon Baker. Leon. I'm Saturita. Rita. After introducing ourselves, I sat on the sofa opposite of Leon. So, what is it this time? As I was figuring out what was the case, I noticed Leon was looking straight at me. He stood still, then deeply lowering his head. Thank you so much, Leon. What did I do? I'm sure that this is the first time meeting with Leon, and I don't remember having did something that would deserve a thank you from you, Rita. Yes, it is our first time meeting, but, thank you, Leon. Again he thanked me, as I poked my head with both my fingers and think in confusion. The south side of Shikoro City, one bakery shop. There, Leon brought me. This is my shop, Leon. It has a nice smell to it, Rita. The store that has been guided by Leon can be said to not have many customers even when I complimented, though it is kept clean, and a good smell drifted outside as well. Looking at the shop, that was the impression that it gave me. As you can see, I'm running a bakery. These past few days, because of Citizen continuing to produce wheat that I had been saved, Leon. Ah, Rita. I somehow understood the circumstances. I got it, but is that worth being that thankful? Is it something that you should thank me? Is what your face seems to be saying, Leon. Putting it briefly, it's true that, without the necessary ingredients you cannot make bread, and increasing the price of your bread would lead to some trouble. Though, the matter isn't something worth bringing me all the way here, Rita. You'll understand once you head in, Leon. Okay, Rita. If he put it that way, there must be something going on. Following what Leon said, I followed and went in. The bakery shop was well lit, and from outside, and the image from outside was still beautiful, but the bread lineup was plain. Bread, French bread, table roll. There were no delicatessen breads, let alone any anpan. Anyway, it was simple and plain. What is this? As I turned around and looked at Leon, he continued further. Please, Leon. As soon as I entered the kitchen, I was surprised at the sight of the bread studio. 3 little pigs. That was the first word that came into mind. They looked to be around their lower elementary kids, the 3 of them with a human but a pig face, and they were kneaded bread doughs. They had a certain charm, but no matter where I look, they seemed to be monsters. This is Rita. They're mini orcs, the demons who lived in a dungeon, and they are rogue monsters. I'm sure you know what I mean, Citizen, Leon. Ah, so similar to Cerberus in my home, Rita. It's the same as that, was what he was trying to say. Couple years back, I met them in a field. I thought that these children would attack me, but somehow they seemed nostalgic, so we decided to live together, Leon. Collar. They seem to have collars on their wrists, Rita. I can't endure putting it on their necks, so I pleaded on whether I could put it on their wrists instead, Leon. Even while Leon was talking with me, the 3 little pigs, originally mini orcs, continued to knead the dough. They did the one thing without disturbance. One of them came to show Leon the dough he had kneaded up. Ogo, pig 1. Let's see. Yep, you did well. You worked hard, Leon. Ogo, pig 1. Leon confirmed the dough and stroked the head of the mini orc. The mini orc was delighted and continued to knead the next dough. When living together, we had many mistakes. Many, Leon. Is that so, Rita? Surely, I do not want to imagine how many was it. And thus the bakery was what I concluded. There's nothing else but this. Is what I wouldn't want to say. But this is the best match for these kids. I think you would understand after looking at them, but they can really knead the dough well, and they're glad to be praised by me, Leon. They have a good relationship. It was a little enviable. When there are days when they can't make bread, they would be sad. For example, when I fell sick, they couldn't knead any breads, Leon. I see, Rita. Finally, I knew about the story of the bakery shop. Leon also understood that I got it. When the Clifford family stopped the production of wheat, Leon and his 3 mini orcs were in trouble. Connecting that with this, I came to understand why he thanked me from the beginning. Citizen, Leon. Leon turned to me, and bowed his head again. Thank you so much, really, thank you, Leon. The things that I've done, it seemed to have produced surprising results in surprising places. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 143. Morning. After raising my intelligence from B to Atnonium Dungeon 6th floor, I went to Duru at noon to get some vegetables. Going through the usual routine for the day, I went back to the mansion when evening arrived. When I came back, following my daily routine, I went to the sub-branch of the shop which is located at one of the rooms of the mansion to update my passbook. "Welcome home, Rita-san, Elsa." At the end of the room came Elsa, standing up and lightly running towards me to greet me. "I'm back. Please calculate for today as well, Rita." "Yes, I'll have your passbook please." "Oh, that reminds me, the purchase of carrots prices have increased." "Elsa, the purchase price of carrots? Why?" "Rita, as Rita-san's drop quality and reputations are good, recently the prices for it has increased, but people still wanted Rita-san's carrots, so the orders have increased. And one of them, Eve-san, Killing Rabbit, self-acclaimed that your carrots are the best, hence why the prices and demands have increased." "Elsa." I nodded in acknowledgement. The higher the ranking in drops, the more it influenced the quantity and quality. And, me having S drop in all of the category would produce the highest quality and quantity there was in this world. Among them, it was interesting that Eve alone could push the sales of the carrots. "Well, you know how Eve is, rank S when it comes to loving carrots, Rita." "That might be the case. Okay, I've recorded today's income." Today's earning is 1,543,298 biro. "Elsa." "Thanks, Rita." 1.5 million. Huh. Today's amount was good too. "Oh right." "Elsa, do you have anything else to do after this?" Rita. "Nothing, as far as I remember. Do you need something?" Elsa. "I wanna celebrate for the demand going up. Do you wanna come?" Rita. "Definitely." Elsa. I only briefly asked, but Elsa agreed strongly. A bar. Villada Edge. We arrived at the familiar bar where their beer changes daily. Recently, I have been gaining in popularity, thus the shop owner would guide me to a quiet seat in the back, the usual bar, and the usual seats. Elsa and I held our beers high as we cheered and drank our beers. The beer that I ordered was called coffee beer. It came from the lowest floor of a certain dungeon drop, so it wasn't a regular beer that you can find. You can taste the nice and bitterness of the coffee and the common hops, so it was one of my favorite beers to drink. Cheers for your good work, Rita-san. Thank you so much for what you've done so far. Elsa. Why the sudden thank you? Rita. It seems that my performance have improved considerably over the past few weeks thanks to Rita-san. Elsa. Is that the case? Well, but it isn't just me that increased the overall income, right? Rita. Well, Rita-san's drops are amazing in quality and it's stable too. People who can produce stable quality and quantity are very much appreciated. I asked Master a long time ago, when I was independent, we would bet how many A-drop people can we pull in. Elsa. I see, Rita. How many A-drop regulars can be secured that can provide both stable quality and quantity? The amount was strictly dependent on the person's personality too. Naturally, if the person has a habit of skipping the days of going into the dungeon or if they're sick all the time, then the number of times in the dungeon equals drops decreasing. Nevertheless, a drop people would be handy as they can deliver high quality drops as long as they defeat the monsters. Because of your contributions, I have received a ton of bonuses, twice or thrice the amount I'd gotten previously. Elsa. Ooh, that's really great for you, Rita. As I said so, we knocked our cups again. On my previous world, I wouldn't say I earned a lot on my previous company, and I was yearning for a bonus. Congratulations to you, Elsa. Rita. Thank you so much, Rita-san. Elsa. After hearing pleasant compliments, the beer tasted much more delicious. Drinking the beer, eating some snacks, and chatting with Elsa. It was a good way to end the day off. Phew, what a bummer. While we were drinking, two men went over to the seats next to us. They both wore adventurer-like uniforms, and they looked like they have just finished their jobs. It really is a bummer that the prices of wheat has decreased. Rio, Elsa, SSHH, Rita. Hearing the word, wheat, Elsa realized something. I placed my index finger on my mouth to gesture her to stay silent, and paid attention to their conversation. My income has been cut off by 10%. Seriously, this Clifford, doing some unnecessary things. What? Can you tell me the reason? Don't try to cheat me. Ah. So, those Rita family was told by Clint to help resolve the situation. As it was, the wheat coming from Clifford family was obviously worse than the Rita family. No wait, I wonder if theirs were really good. What you're saying is, after good quality wheat was produced, the previous producer's demand went down? Yep, that's right. The man drank the entire beer in one go, and Don slammed the glass onto the table. It was the same back then. When something happens, those Rita family, no Ritasita would appear. That bugger would always appear. Seriously doing unnecessary stuff. This Clifford. If something like that didn't happen, the prices wouldn't have fallen. Seriously man, that bastard Clifford, doing extra work for us. Seems like they have spread the news quickly, then doing extra things and let the Rita family appear. The man flaunt his beer while complaining. I see. So something like this happened. The carrot went up, whereas the price of wheat fell. Two of the items that I was involved in turned out to contrast with each other, as expected. Elsa, who is listening to the story, said, although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 144, Nonium Dungeon 6th floor. Today as well I was hunting poison zombies inside the poison-filled cave. Today as well, I continued on my sniper practice with my revolver I tried last time. This time, I tried not to defeat them with a single shot. I aimed at the distance far enough to be snipe, and fired, first the arm, then the knee, then the ears. Even if the shot connected, they won't be defeated as I would only weaken them as I shoot them. To be honest, this way was harder than just defeating them in one shot, though I chose to do so, as just defeating them by sniping them with one hit could be done using the homing bullet. If I used that bullet and aimed at a straight line aiming at the vital point of the monster, the bullet would always follow that point. It was just this morning that I noticed the efficiency was bad when I practiced sniping with a normal bullet. Thus, I aimed not to defeat them in a single go. If asked if there was any meaning to this, there might be none. To begin with, doing this didn't make much sense. I could defeat any monster that I've defeated once with repetition. Even so, it was better to acquire techniques to avoid trouble when something does happen at a later time. Thus I'm doing it right now as practice. After shooting their hands and feet, it was finally a headshot, and repeating that again and again. Though I was a little over the time limit, but I was able to increase my intelligence from A to S. I temporarily came back to the mansion via the teleportation room. As I do not need the magic card at Nonium, I came back to pick up the magic card for my afternoon routine in Doruru Dungeon. My life has been following a particular pattern as of lately, but an event outside that pattern occurred. Ah, good thing Rita is here. Alice. What's the matter, Alice? Rita. Alice came close to me from the corridor behind me with her light footsteps. Alice Wonderland. TLN. Wait, her name was that this whole time? Maybe I'd forgotten. From a background of being born in the dungeon, she was a girl who understands the structure and location where monsters would spawn based on her intuition when entering the dungeon. At the same time, she also has the ability to make monsters her friend. 3 monsters were riding on her shoulder: Jumpy-san, Bonnie-chan, and Bon-Bon. They were monsters that was defeated in the dungeon and became her friends, and now their figure was that of a stuffed animals. Usually their appearance are like so, but if she orders they would be able to return to their original appearance and fight together. If you were to convert her skill into a game occupation, she would probably be a summoner. Such unusual girl was looking at me with a paddable head. Are you free after this, Alice? Well, I'll go to Doruru after this as usual. If there's something that I can help you, I can do that first. Rita. Is that so? Then come with me now, Alice. Alice said as she ran forward. I followed her from behind, and only the teleportation room was ahead. Was it something to do with a dungeon? Well, most errands in this world should come from dungeons, right? Thinking of such thoughtless stuff, we arrived in front of the teleportation room. So, I should follow you to a dungeon? Rita. Yes, I'll go first, then you come, Alice. Ah wait, Rita. Teleportation room. I grabbed onto Alice before she jumped into the dungeon at the last second. What's wrong, Rita? Do you need to get ready? Alice, that's not it. You have to tell me where you want to go first though. Rita, oh right, I'm heading to Bismuth's 7th floor. Alice, so, wait. Rita, I tried asking Alice whether she was still onto the case on the other day. No, that's not it, Alice. It looked like that was a number. I think it's faster to see it than to explain it. Alice, that's true too. I got it, Rita. I nodded, and Alice disappeared using the teleportation room. With that, I also entered the room. If I'm not mistaken. Bismuth's 7th floor. The teleportation room can bring you to any dungeons after you went there once. After knowing about it, I asked Eve, the most veteran adventurer among all of us, to bookmark the entire dungeon of Shikaro for everyone. Thus, although it wasn't of my own power, I could also go to any floor of Bismuth's dungeon. Thus, I teleported to the 7th floor of Bismuth. This floor was also a dungeon that was snowing. The crystal of Bismuth had a layer of magical snow on top of it. It was quite a fantastic scene. Rita, over here. Alice. Alice, who came first, pulled my hand and ran forward. Wait, I won't run away, you know, Rita. But that child will run away. Alice, that child? Rita, what is she saying? Suddenly, the monsters that was on Alice's shoulder caught my attention. Jumpy-san, Bonnie-chan, and Bon-Bon. It was the adorable companions of Alice. Don't tell me. There it is. Alice. Alice stopped all of a sudden as if stepping on the emergency brake, and to not bump into her I stopped in a hurry. Look at that, Rita. Alice. That? Rita, looking at where Alice was pointing, there was a monster quite a distance from here. Because we were quite far, the shape was blurry and I could not recognize the shape that well. Do you mean that monster-like thing over there? Rita, yes, it's Tog Tog. It's calling me, Alice. Ah, so its name is Tog Tog, huh, Rita? As I suspect, it was about this, and naming in that sense would mean that she wants to make that monster her friend. The 3 monsters that she had was also like this. She would name them before even making them as friends, which meant this was the same as before. Why Tog Tog? Rita, because that monster's name is called Needle Lizard. Alice, Needle Lizard. Hey, lizard with needles. I see, Rita. TLN, basically lizard in JPs and thorns. Needles is also Kamahen stot. Much smart. Somehow I could imagine it, and I was convinced. By the way, the upper floor is chameleons. Thus, based on the tendency of dungeons so far, it seemed that Bismuth is all about reptiles. While making such guesses, I asked Alice about something. So, what should I do? Rita, to be friends with Tog Tog, we have to first defeat it, but the way to defeat a needle lizard, you must first destroy the needles before hitting the main body. Alice. Because it's the 7th floor, huh, Rita? The dungeons of Shikaro, anything after the 6th floor, the method to defeat each monsters becomes special, so there is a license to proceed further from the 6th floor. It seemed that the concept was for this dungeon, but, when you approach it, it would withdraw immediately. Alice, in other words, we must defeat the lizard outside its escape range. Rita, yes, that's right. Alice, leave it to me. Rita, it seems like my practice came to be useful immediately. I drew both my revolvers, then loaded it with normal bullets inside. Are the needles hard? Rita, yes, it's pretty hard, but not as tough as the arsenic rocks. Alice, so normal bullet would be harder. Okay, Rita. I held my gun and approached the monster. As I approached, it gradually became visible. Needle lizard, a small but plump body, and having its back growing needles. Instead of calling it a lizard, I think its image closely resembled that of a dragon. Stop any closer and it would notice. Alice, got it, Rita. Following Alice's intuition, I stopped dead on my tracks. Standing on my knees on the ground, I held my 2 revolvers and readied. I closed one of my eyes and set my aim. Sniper, a sniper who has practiced recently. When the needle lizard stopped, that was the right time to fire. My palms were sweating. Failure is not an option. It may be forgiven, but this monster is to be made for Alice's friend. I won't know what kind of adverse effect if I fail. Therefore, failure is not an option now. I breathed in deeply, and concentrated to my fullets. The surrounding scenery disappeared. Even the dungeon snow was brought out from my consciousness. What I'm seeing now is the needle lizard, its needle. Bam, bam, bam. I drew the trigger continuously. The normal bullets strike and fuse together along the way, and became a penetrating bullet. The penetrating bullet flew while spinning, and all the bullets hit right in the middle of the needles of the lizard. It did not hit the main body at all, and only the needles was broken. I did it, Rita. My turn. Alice. Alice dashed towards the monster. On the way, Jumpy-san, Bonnie-chan, and Bonbon returned to their usual appearance, and together with her friends, they defeat the needle lizard. After the fierce battle, the needle lizard collapsed, and once it disappeared, its appearance changed and regenerated. A short and plump stuffed animal, with needles on its back. The texture seems squishy when touched, were coming out and retracting. Alice picked it up, lifted Tog Tog, and patted its head. Tog Tog also rubbed Alice's cheeks. It seems that it has safely become a new member. While waving her hands, Alice returned. Rita, thanks a bunch. Look, even Tog Tog is saying thanks. Alice. Alice had a full smile on her face, and the adorable-looking Tog Tog also poked its head out. With that, her friends grew again. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 145. After safely capturing Tog Tog, we went back to the mansion for the moment. Different from the atmosphere the dungeon gave, it greatly contrasts with the warm and bright home that Emily managed and maintained. Bringing Tog Tog here for the first time, the plush doll-sized needle lizard felt uncomfortable as it fidgeted around. It's alright, Tog Tog. This is my house, and starting from today you'll be staying here with us. Alice. Alice patted Tog Tog's head. At the same the three others, Jumpy-san, Bonnie-chan, and Bonbon went close to Tog Tog, and through their body language, they were moving at a comical way as if indicating something to Tog Tog. The four plush doll-sized monsters, as if in an anime, or rather a spin-off anime where the premise of the anime is to give off a heartwarming feels to the audience. After the senpai's encouragement, Tog Tog's worries faded away. Welcome back, Master, Cerberus. While having such a scene in front of the teleportation room, my guard dog, Cerberus, came to see what was all the fuss about. I'm home. Nothing happened over here? Rita. Ito, a weird door-to-door salesman came over, but he ran away after I barked at him. Cerberus. A salesperson, huh? How did you bark at him? Rita. Like this. Cerberus. Cerberus looked up the sky and roared. A shockwave formed around him, and blew off the four of Alice's plush doll-sized friends away. Such strength with just a howl. If it were in a game, the monster would have dealt minor damage with just this strong howl. If he did that, I think most humans would have ran away. Something like that, Cerberus. I see. Good job, Cerberus. Rita. Cerberus. A body larger than a regular human being. Truly a giant worthy of being called the fiercest guard dog, but when I stroked him, he became excited. He wagged his tails excitedly, as if trying to appeal to me that he wanted more petting. If you're that happy, then why not have more petting? I'll head back to work. I'll pet you again once I come back at night, so be a good dog and protect this house. Rita. Alright, leave it to me. Cerberus. Cerberus's tail wagged crazily once more. He's a dog that would feel joy in doing what his master tells him to do. Even now, when he was ordered by me, his tail was spinning around like crazy. And well, even if the hallway walls were slightly dented, there's its own charm to it. Leaving Cerberus to fulfill his role as a guard dog, I returned back to the dungeon. Was what I thought when Alice was looking at Cerberus back for a while now. What's wrong? Rita. Saru-chan is a monster, right? Alice. Yeah, Rita. He won't drop anything if he was defeated, right? Alice. Well, that's because he's a rogue monster. Rita. What's with her? Was what I felt while looking at Alice. Alice was really staring at Cerberus, and then looking at the four of her friends which came back from the blast earlier. Maybe. Alice. Alice had a face as if she grasped something. Tararu Dungeon, first floor, a floor where slimes drop bin sprouts. Alice and I were here right now. Look closely, okay, Rita? Alice. Okay, Rita. She had something she wanted me to see, so she grabbed but asked me to keep my revolvers away, so now I was completely on spectator mode as I watched closely. Alice walked one step at a time, and summoned her 4 friends, Jumpy-san, Bonnie-chan, Bon-Bon, Tog-Tog. Let's go, Alice. Afterwards, the 4 plush doll-sized monsters returned back to their original shape, as in their original monster size, was what it was supposed to be, but that wasn't the case. Their sizes changed, but it was still their deformed look, as based on evidence from Alice's friends. The 4 deformed but adorable shape was summoned. The 4 of them was close to one of the slimes, and they started attacking. 4 against 1, what an unfair advantage. Stop tilde, Alice. Obeying Alice's signal, the 4 of them stopped attacking. The slime then counter-attacked, but the 4 of them changed into defense mode as they dodged the slime's attack. What's this gotta with anything, Alice? Rita, just stay put and see, go dash. Alice. After gazing at the slime as if seeing something, Alice ordered to resume the attack. The 4 of them attacked accordingly, and quickly defeated the slime and dropped the bin sprouts. Ooh, as I suspect, Alice. After being convinced by something, she ordered her friend monsters to attack the next slime. Hunting slimes, attacking with the same pattern. Halfway she would stop, and sometimes straight away defeating the slimes. I watched it several times, watching for the timing dot. That was what I felt. Immediately realizing it, I realized another thing. The drop is always 100%. Alice's drop is C, and if I'm not mistaken she herself had everything else F, so letting the monsters defeating it would also get the C drop. C wasn't a high rank to begin with, so the percentage was around 50% per monster. But she somehow managed to get it 100% of the time. I thought that it was unrelated to the timing, so I asked her. Alice. Rita. Yes. Alice. Even if you don't do that specifically, it'll still drop? Rita. Ah, so you've figured it out already? Alice. Alice smiled brilliantly, as her monster friends went on to the next target. After being ordered, they defeated it. This time the drop did not come out at all. The next slime did not drop anything too. Even the ones after that did not drop. Not once did it drop anything. I'm convinced for sure now. Do you understand which opponent gives drop, Rita? It's a little different. I sort of understand the timing of when to get drops. Alice. So the timing, huh, Rita? Yep. Where would it drop if I were to defeat it? Just now when I saw Saru-chan I felt something that has on him, so I thought maybe if I looked at other monsters. Alice. Cause rogue monsters will never drop anything. It's like RNG, Rita. RN. What's that? Alice. Ah, just me talking out loud, Rita. Again speaking a gaming language, as if this world would understand it. That's amazing. Alice. Rita. Yep. All thanks to Rita. Alice. Me? Why me? Rita. Yes, because of you, Alice. Alice nodded, and the 4 monster friends revert to their plushy forms, as she hugged them. Maybe because after I befriended Tog-Tog, I obtained this ability, and it's because of Rita who helped me catch him that I was able to have it. Alice. Is that so, Rita? Thanks Rita tilde. Alice. Alice thanked me while smiling brightly. The plushie that was on her arms were also showing their gratification using their body language. My fellow summoners seemed to have evolved once again, although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 146. I went to see Alice and observed her way of hunting. Tog-chan go behind, Pon-Pon, hit 3 times and stop, Bonnie-chan wait for the signal, over there. Alice. With Alice commanding them, the 4 of them battled the slime. It wasn't like how she used to fight, going all in and attacking all at once. To some extent, she had to look at the timing before dealing the final blow, which was hard at times. That wasn't all. Jumpy-san, melt once. Alice. Watching it from the sides, she gave instructions which had no meaning whatsoever. And even though I could not fully understand the intent behind her movement, the drop would always be at a 100% drop rate. When you defeat an enemy you will always get a drop, just like a person with drop status. Doing that for a few rounds, Alice's earning exceeded 500,000 that day. Yuan, Still can't do it. In the city of Shikaro, by using the restrained bullet to restrain a rogue monster, or more specifically a Frankenstein that was at a distance, Alice was observing it for more than a minute before giving her conclusion. No matter how many times I defeat it, I won't get any drops from it, Alice. So it really is impossible, Rita. The only one being able to get a drop from defeating this is only Rita. Alice. Seems like it, Rita. After testing, we figured out something. The ability of Alice, and the mechanism of this world. Alice has an ability which, if a monster can produce a drop, then I would understand the timing in obtaining that drop. That was if the monsters were inside the dungeon, and if she'd done the timing right, then the drop would be a 100% of the time, though the opposite happened if it's a rogue monster. If the probability was 1%, then she could have continued trying until she gets it, but if it was 0%, then there is seriously nothing that can be done about it. And so, the drops from this world would relate to a sort of roulette game. The higher the status drop, the larger the area of that roulette. All monsters would have a space for the roulette, and rogue monsters would be a mechanism of having zero space in that roulette. And my drop S that doesn't exist in this world would equate to having hit all the numbers I want in the roulette all the time, be it monsters or rogue monsters. Thanks, Rita. After saying that, I fired the penetration bullet that pierced the head of the Frankenstein, causing it to die. In the meantime, gaining a homing bullet in the process. You're mistaken, Rita. I should be the one who should say thank you. Thanks to Rita, I could get so much drop for today. I even earned 300 Capiros tilde, Alice. 300 Capiro, that was her income. Though she has a 100% drop rate, it takes time as she needs to follow a procedure while timing it right. Hence why she'd only earn 300 Capiro. However, I'm glad, with that Alice is also a 10 million player too, Rita. Yes, Alice, earning 300 Capiro per day, that means that her annual income would exceed 10 million with simple calculation. This was one hurdle, an iconic figure. Alice, who reached it, was super happy. Really? It's all thanks to Rita. Thanks for having me as your friend, Alice. The pleasure's mine, Rita. Though she thanked me, I was also happy for her. Having a maximum level of 2, whichever family she apply would never agree to take her in. Seeing her grow up from the day I met her, I was glad that I took her in. Oh? Alice. What's wrong, Alice? Suddenly stopping, Rita. Over there. Alice. Over there? Ah, the magic tools shop. Rita. Alice was staring across the magic tools shop. Do you want to go in? Rita. Yes, Alice. Alice wasn't paying attention to anything else but the store. When I suggested her to go in, she immediately went inside. I chased after her. As I went in, the shopkeeper Isaac, which I was familiar with, was with another customer who I wasn't familiar with. Ah, Alice. As soon as Alice looked at the customer holding the magic fruit, she raised her voice. What's the matter, Alice? Rita. That magic fruit. Alice. You want that? Rita. Alice. Alice silently nodded, and while she was doing that she simply stared at the magic fruit. Can't it be the others? Rita. Out of all of the fruits, that is different. Only that has it. Alice. I tried to grasp Alice's ability by deciphering what she was saying. Out of all, that is different, and also, has it. Probably the magic fruit has turned into a lottery box. No, wait. Has turned into a roulette. And only that magic fruit had the attention of Alice, which has a magic that she wants. However, Oji-chan, can you sell that to me? Alice. Apologies in advance, but the item that you want has been bought by the customer as of just now, Isaac. Isaac had an apologetic look while explaining. If you want, there are other magic fruits over here for your selection. Isaac. That's fine. Hey, sell that to me please. Alice. Then, 10 million Piro it is. That man stared at Alice while thinking for a second, before giving a ridiculous price for the magic fruit. It was slightly higher than a regular magic fruit, but one magic fruit costs around 5 million Piro. That man saying he wants 10 million from Alice, but I figured that she really wanted it. The moment I heard the price, Isaac was frightened as he furrowed his eyebrows. 10 million Piro. Alice. Alice made a troubled groan. She wanted it. But her face tells me she couldn't afford 10 million euro. It's 10 million, you know, Rita. Rita, boo. But, Alice. But you really want it, right, Rita? Yes, that's true. But, Alice, that's enough to convince me, Rita. I faced the man, and spoke again. So that's the gist. I'll take out 10 million. Please sell that to me, Rita. It's now 30 million euro. WTF? The man opened his mouth for a brief moment, before raising the price again. He's totally looking down at me. He was raising the price because he knew I could afford it. What should I do? I could still forge out 30 million, but if I were to do that, would he increase it again? At worst he would increase again, as long as he wants. If that were the case, what could I do? Dear customer, Isaac. Isaac suddenly cut our conversation. Not me, but the man who he sold the magic fruit to. I have but one thing to advise you, Isaac. What is it? It's not as if I'm telling him to buy it separately. No, quite the opposite. I just want to let you know that the gentleman over there is Rita Sato-sama, Isaac. He's the Rita family's Rita, Sato-sama. Please thoroughly reconsider your actions, Isaac. The one who made the Clifford family fall in business. That Rita Sato. Yes, if he wasn't there, then that case would have become self-owned. Do you understand? Isaac, you. The man groaned, and Isaac stopped talking. Unlike before, the bullshit situation was completely reversed. I did not expect my name to be this effective. This is it, as I waited. 10 million euros, eh? Rita, this was what I agreed to. Is that good? Yeah, that's fine, Rita. The man looked as if he was saved, shook his head vertically enough that he might break his neck. At night, the living room of the mansion, Alice gazed at the magic fruit that we just purchased. What happened to Alice Chen no desu? Emily, as her friend asked, I explained the new ability that she obtained recently. Probably the same thing would apply to the magic fruit too, Rita, which means that she would be aware of the timing at when to fire her magic. Celeste. Celeste immediately understood the situation. Truly, the best brains of the family. What sort of magic? Eve shook my head while asking me. I'm not sure either. Haven't heard from her yet, Rita. But she seemed so serious about it. Nano desu? It must certainly be an amazing magic. Nano desu? Emily. Or maybe the person herself really wanted the magic. Celeste. Endless growth of carrots. Something like that? Eve. I didn't think it was that sort of genre, Rita. The usual blur. Eve was limited to this time as she did not say any more. There was that possibility, given the unique nature of Alice, so the possibility should be high. Alice kept staring at the magic fruit while we were discussing. I feel like she was staring at a roulette, the ball going round and round. A few seconds in a dungeon, and a minute before she was convinced that the roulette was impossible for Rogue Monster, but this time she was looking at the magic fruit for quite a long time. An hour passed, 2 hours passed. Alice continued to stare at the magic fruit. Eventually, dawn was about to appear. Alice was stubbornly drawn towards the magic fruit. I thought that it might be 1 in a million chance of confirming it before using the magic fruit. Results are out, and the winner is, drum rolls, Tog-chan. You all were really trolling me when I saw Tog being first for the first few days. If that was the case, I would have just named it for all you know. Nonetheless, congrats to everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to think of names and vote for it. And thank you to those who came up with such adorable names. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 147. Morning, the garden outside of the mansion. Our whole team assembled, and were surrounding Alice in a circle. What sort of magic did you learn? Celeste. Celeste was the first to ask as always. Her usual calm and cool expression was there, but her eyes were showing otherwise, as her eyes were sparkling with anticipation. This was normal because she is a magician after all. All Might is the name of the magic. Alice, huh? Baku no Hero Academia too much? Author-san. All Might. I've never heard of it before. Celeste, the family's #1 brainy intellectual. Celeste was tilting her head. All Might, huh? Rita, does Yoda-san know it no desu? Emily, based on the words alone, I guess it's something to do with almighty or perfect or invincible? It seems like a title that resembles that of a god, Rita. Recently, that phrase would also appear in a hero's name, basically carrots. Eve. I knew you were gonna say that, Rita. Knew you were going to say that, you know. Celeste. Knew you were going to say that, no desu? Emily. Eve. Stupid, though it's not. Remark swore Altsukami had retorted. By everyone. If that were true, then this magic must be incredible. I wonder what it does. After Elsa had eyes of expectation, Alice's next sentence made it even stronger. The magic can only be used once per day. Alice. If there's a restriction to it, then it must be rather powerful. Elsa. Speaking a restriction, Rita's repetition is also under that too. Celeste. It instantly kills an enemy, so yeah, Rita. Though it does 0 damage to an enemy that I've never defeated before, but if I had, then it would instantly kill it. That was the restriction. The powerful it is, the more restriction is has. I can understand that feeling. All Might. Once per day, playing such a long game of roulette finally paid off, huh? The conditions have been met, even I was getting excited. Could you use it once to let us see ... and is it something to be used on someone? Celeste. Now that you mention no desu, if you use such an amazing magic at the garden, would it be alright na no desu? Emily. It's alright. That's why I called everyone here. Alice. Alice firmly laid it down for us. And finally our excitement has reached its peak. In order to use it, Alice took a distance between us. She slightly bent forward. Goo 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 ... It felt like energy was surging from within her, as she placed both of her hands towards the sky. Ryo-chan. Alice. ... Huh? The heck was that? Ryo-chan? Wasn't it called All Might? I was conflicted, and the rest furrowed their eyebrows whilst tilting their heads in sync. Immediately after, the space was sliced. A cut was sliced open out of thin air, and something was coming out. It felt like something was coming out from a different dimension. The first thing that was seen coming out from the rift of the dimension was a hand. I see, so a summoning magic, was what I thought. ... Yoda-san? Emily. ... It's Rita-san. Celeste. ... Oh, it's Rita-san. Elsa. ... So cheeky even though you're just a low level. Eve. Was what my friends said. It appeared from the crack of the dimension. That person Alice summoned was me. More like it looks like me. It's me but not actual me. In a word, it's like someone dressed up as me in an amusement park's costume. No matter how you looked at it, the model was me, but it was a deformed version, just like Alice's fellow monsters. My name is Rita, hence why that's Ryo-chan, huh? Alice. What in the world? Rita. If you're careless it'll get hurt. Alice. At that moment, Ryo-chan disappeared from sight. No wait, it did not just disappear. Just before it looked like it disappeared, I saw that his right foot was asserting power, so he was moving at a super high speed. Right ... behind me? No, it's above. As I looked upwards, Ryo-chan was already close to me whilst doing a jump kick. I raised my arms and guarded it. The trajectory of the kick changed and instead of attacking me, he wrapped around my arms with his legs to restrain me. He pulled 2 revolvers in that state. Even the revolvers were deformed, making it cute. I pushed the muzzle away. I wanted to avoid it, but the huge bullet was already close to me. I kicked Ryo-chan, forcibly peeling off the entanglement and jumping sideways. Immediately after that, the place I was at a moment ago was destroyed by an annihilation bullet. The fusion of a flaming and freezing bullet. The annihilation bullet swallowed that space. He can use that too, Rita. I shouted, as I turned on my switch, switching from my daily life mode to my battle mode. I pulled out my revolvers, and repeatedly fired my normal bullets. At the same time, I stepped on the ground with a force and ran with a SS speed. I fired the bullet and ran at the same speed as it was fired, and reloaded more normal bullets before firing again. In addition to the barrage of normal bullets fired, it all became penetrating bullet as it went to one direction, which was towards Ryo-chan. Ryo-chan fired a freezing bullet, and fraud some penetrating bullets, grabbed one of it, and threw it to one of the penetrating bullets. I should have known. While the penetrating bullets are strong against straightforward enemies, it had a weak side when hitting sideways. If you timed it right and hit it from the side, then it would be broken easily. That was what Ryo-chan did. After the first compensation was over, the battle was reaching its climax. That was what I felt during this fight. Although it was deformed, but Ryo-chan's ability was almost the same as mine. Also with the fact that he could use my bullets too, together with my strength, speed and toughness, whichever it was strong. It's the same as Rita-san, Celeste. Yep, All Might is a magic that lets me summon the strongest person I thought of. And the strength remains too. Alice. As I listened closely to Alice's words, I thought that it was true. Yes, it was exactly the same as me, even though it looked different, but ability side, it was exactly the same. The battle wasn't settled, and if I prolonged it, what I thought after wouldn't be good. Passion. It was the sound of air escaping, and Ryo-chan suddenly disappeared. Mew? Rita. Alright, that's the end. Once per day, and I can only call it for a short period of time. Alice. So there was such restrictions too, Rita. It is no desu. But I'm convinced no desu, that Yoda-san can be summoned no desu? Emily. Even though you're a low level, trying to act like a high level, cheeky, Eve. I was completely burned out from that fight, but I now understand the effects of All Might. A summoned magic which could only be called for about, approximately 60 seconds per day. It's amazing. Alice-san being able to summon Rita-san would really be the strong, Elsa said. The surrounding friends were lifting Alice high up. Alice was also pleased, but instead of thinking who is stronger, the deformed me equals Ryo-chan is treated as a friend. Hence she was happy. I thought for a moment while watching such scene. What's wrong, Yoda-san? Emily. I have one thing on mind, Rita. What is it, Desu? Emily. If I become stronger in the future, by having new magic and seeds to make me stronger, I wonder if Ryo-chan would also follow suit, Rita. I see no desu, Emily. I was concerned about whether Ryo-chan would stay the same, or maybe it would follow in real time and copy the person. It will become strong, together with Rita. Alice. Is that so? Rita. Yes, Alice. She nodded firmly. I see. Then, let's try it. It's important to test your ability and grasp it. With that you could clearly see the changes. Magic fruit, huh? The magic user Celeste, as though reading my thoughts. I nodded. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 148. Sullen Dungeon, 7th floor. Snowing inside the uninhabited dungeon, a horse was straddling with a peculiar face. It wasn't just any horse, there were 2 horns protruding out of its head, and that horse is the worst monster of this dungeon. A dungeon master polluting the very purity of its surrounding. The bicorn. The bicorn was walking nonchalantly as it activates an aura that degrades one abilities if within that radius. And Alice and I finally found that bicorn while we were dungeon crawling from the 1st floor till the 7th floor. It's right there. It's such a pain to locate it. Alice, a dungeon master that corrodes the purity of the dungeon floors. Can't make any huge moves on it either, Rita. When I tried chasing after it, it just hopped to a different floor. Alice. The surprising limit of the teleportation room was revealed. If there's something you want on a floor, you can just teleport there, but opponents such as a dungeon master, you'll have to know exactly which floor it resides before using it. We had to teleport to the 1st floor, and slowly descend till the 7th floor where we finally caught up with the bicorn. The bicorn noticed our presence. With angry eyes, it stared at us. It looks angry. Alice. Well, of course, there were already adventurers challenging it and failed, Rita. It reminded me of the sudden request that was sent by the Dungeon Association chief. A dungeon master has been spotted inside Sullen Dungeon. The first batch of adventurers were sent to exterminate it but failed and came back. If the dungeon master was prolonged, it would have an adverse effect on the production and ecosystem of the dungeon, so it is desired to hasten the extermination as soon as possible. Let's hurry and defeat it immediately, Rita. I'll go then. Alice. If you think it's too dangerous, immediately retreat, Rita. No prob. Just leave it to us, Tilda. Alice. While talking face to face, she had both of her hands with a peace sign on her forehead before heading towards the bicorn. Firstly, the small ones, Bonnie-chan, Jumpy-san, Bonbon, and Toge-chan tilde, Alice. Calling out their names, she summoned her fellow monster friends. The 4 doll-sized monsters hopped out of her back, and returning to their original deformed size, attacked the bicorn. The skeleton Bonnie-chan and the slime Jumpy-san were the vanguard, and the little devil Bon-Bon was at the back firing magic, and lastly the needle lizard Toge-chan was beside Bon-Bon firing needles as a supporter. 2 vanguard and 2 rearguard, an orthodox but balanced party. Their cooperation were great too. Most monsters would not stand a chance against them. However, the enemy right now was the bicorn, a dungeon master with an ability, the one who sullies purity, to decrease the opponent's abilities. The bicorn kicked the 4 of them with its horns and hind leg. Even with the 4 of them, they still could not beat the bicorn up. Instead, it was even more of a challenge, as the difference in ability was apparent. As I thought, it's impossible. Can't be helped. Time to use my trump card, Alice. Alice raised both her hands up, as if energy surging from within her body with a goo 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 effect, and a bam sound was heard. Ryo-chan, Alice. Alice's summoning magic. The space was split open, and within it a person wearing a department store-like costume came out. Well, the costume was me alright. The me but deformed. It had a sort of charm and cuteness. Go get Ryo-chan tilde, Alice. Without a word, Ryo-chan ran straight towards the bicorn. With the revolver, he used his fist first. Using magic, he held his hand and immediately lightning struck the bicorn. Thunder magic, lighting. A roar was heard and the lighting was discharged, but it did not have any effect against the bicorn. Its 2 horns shine and around the bicorn was surrounded with a spherical barrier, which deflected the lighting. That's how it is, Rita, I mumbled. As a beginner, magic lighting couldn't possibly penetrate its barrier. Though, the lighting that was used was kinda huge. Before facing the dungeon master, I used several magic fruits and one of the magic that I learned was lighting, and Ryo-chan used that on the bicorn. Ryo-chan's strength doesn't stay stagnant the moment she learned the magic, but the strength was based on how strong I am in real time, which meant that as I grow stronger, it does too. Lighting. I clenched my fist and chanted, with the same magic fired towards the bicorn. The same thing happened with the barrier deflecting it. Rita, today's my time to shine, Alice. Gotcha gotcha, Rita. Alice was angry as I apologized. I was testing something. The power I released was the same as that of Ryo-chan, and even when Ryo-chan didn't exist, it had the same firepower. Using the portable KIA board to confirm the ability, nothing has decreased. When Alice summoned Ryo-chan, it seemed that there were 0 demerits to it. It was as if a summoning magic with nothing but merits. Well, speaking of a demerit, Ryo-chan, use repetition, Alice. Ryo-chan clenched his fist and used the magic. Repetition is a magic that defeats an opponent instantly so long as you've defeated that opponent once before. Previously, I had already defeated the bicorn before, so it should have worked. Even when repetition was used, the bicorn was totally fine. So it doesn't work, huh, Alice? Alice seemed to have expected it. Though Ryo have defeated it before but Ryo-chan has not, it was probably as such. The battle continues. Although Ryo-chan was wearing a costume, he tried to trick the bicorn by using its super speed, which was faster than the wind. Same speed as I have, a speed of SS. It had a speed capable of surpassing the bicorn's speed. While firing normal bullets, he rushed and grabbed the bicorn's neck. Then he fired bullets from a close range, and the 2 horns made a crack sound. Now's the time. Bonnie-chan, Jumpy-san, Bon-Bon, and Toge-chan, Alice. The horns broke, and the barrier disappeared. The 4 monsters rejoined the game under Alice's commands. Together with Ryo-chan, the 4 monsters partnered up and beat the shit out of the bicorn. It was an interesting sight to watch. Felt just like a game. It felt like a team of SD characters that was deformed, and in a 2D game fighting in an RPG-esque setting. Though the ability boils down to one person, Ryo-chan was the leader, and the 5 of them would beat the bicorn. The bicorn fell, and struggled as it could not get back up. The monsters swarmed it and beat it to a pulp. I sort of sympathized with the bicorn. Oh no, this is bad, Alice. Alice suddenly said so, as she knew what she had to do. I do not have much time. Ryo-chan quickly deal the final blow. Alice. By Alice's order, Ryo-chan stuck two revolvers out at the same time. The left flame bullet, and the right freezing bullet. Firing annihilation bullets repeatedly. And with that, everything started disappearing. Everything that was there from the beginning started to disappear. The bicorn desperately tried to dodge the barrage of bullets out of fear. Nice one everyone, Alice. The remaining four kept the bicorn still, making it impossible to escape. The bicorn, being hit by the annihilation bullets, pierced its body and disappeared in the same manner. It was impossible to see the drop's timing. Alice looked sad. Another difference found between Rita and Ryo-chan. The ability of this world made it possible to copy my abilities to Ryo-chan, but something outside of that, especially my S-drops, it couldn't copy those. With the summoning time barely outlast the battle, Alice couldn't get a drop. Well, at least you defeated it, Rita. Yep, thanks to Rita. Alice. With that we have safely fulfilled the request. Alice, who defeated the dungeon master, which stopped all the dungeons drop from producing. Having a family with two-person to solo a dungeon master, news quickly spread. The Rita family has become more famous because of that. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 149. Inside the living room at night, all of us were gathered here resting. On top of the table rested a cherry-colored cream pancake, and the girls were happily eating it. This is really delicious, Emily. Even the smell. Sniff sniff. You've used strawberries on the pancake, right? Celeste. Yes, Disu. I saw that someone was selling some sternum strawberries, so I went ahead and bought some. Disu. Emily. Sternum? First time I heard of that dungeon. Celeste. It's a new dungeon now. No, Desu. It's near Shikaro. So there were a few fresh stuff being sent over here now. No, Desu. Emily. Hey, it's reasonably delicious too. Celeste. Emily and Celeste were both discussing about the pancake passionately. On the other hand, there was a tail sticking out of the table underneath of Alice. The tail was flapping with plenty of weight and movement. It felt like a dog was digging a hole. Cerberus had only his tail sticking out of the table. Sir Chan is underneath the table again. He loves to get under there. Alice. He likes to be in small spaces, just like a cat. Eve and Alice were talking about such matter. Non. It's not that he likes it. He's just used to it. Alice. Used? Eve. Yep. He's accustomed to hiding underneath tables or the bottom of the bed when there's lightning strike. You should have seen him. He slid under the table at a smooth maneuvering. Alice. Well, I knew about that. There was a time when he slid under the table to hide at a stylish fashion in about 60 frames per second. Truly artistic, was what I thought at that time. Rita-san, what are looking at? Elsa, who saw me not participating with the conversation, turned over and asked me. She was interested in the item that I was holding. That is Rita-san's passbook. What's wrong with it? Elsa, I was counting something. I was interested in something, thus I wanted to find out, but I don't have my smartphone or a calculator, a device to calculate, so it hasn't been going too well at the moment. Rita, what do you want to count? I can help you with that. Elsa. With a smile she offered a helping hand. Your specialty is calculating? Rita. If it's about money, Elsa, then I'll leave it to you. To be honest, I wanted to know how much I've earned thus far. I wanted to know how much I've earned since coming to this world. I mean since coming to Shikaro. Rita. It's 98,763,750 Piro. Elsa. Rita. An instantaneous answer. Moreover, with an embarrassed face. It's 98,763,750 Piro. Elsa. Did you already count it beforehand? Rita. I did not, but does Rita-san have any other income besides this passbook? Elsa. I do not, but all my items are given to the Swallow's repayment, and the money I earned from Moram is deposited to this account. Rita. Then that's the correct amount. Elsa calmly said. Just curious, how much did Emily earn? Rita. 7,866,754 Piro. Elsa. How about Celeste? Rita, 4,117,896 Spiro, Elsa, Alice. Rita, 1,993,812 Spiro, Elsa, Eve. Rita, if it's under us then 38,983,400 Spiro. Since Eve is a veteran adventurer, I think that she would go to other buyers to sell her items based on the amount. Elsa, the moment I asked she answered immediately, that's amazing, Rita, I like calculating things. Elsa had an embarrassed face with her face dyed red. I see, as expected, Rita, as expected? Elsa, listening to my words, her face returned to normal as she asked, I guess the total amount that I'd earned is almost close to 100 million, Rita, that's right. And that's amazing. It's hard to grasp that the accumulated amount would be this high the more the numbers add up. Elsa, that's, Rita, I had a distant look on my face. I feel like my charges are nourished. I was surprised to hear more charges than expected than getting charged. Maybe it's a little exaggerated, Rita. How ... I don't what sort of charges you're talking about though. Elsa, truly a good person. Easily convinced even though she was confused. But still, almost 100 million Just recently, earning 50 million was a huge sum, but now I've finally reached till this point. As I use the money I've earned, I don't have much left at hand, but I was still happy nonetheless. Let's have a party tomorrow Nano Desu, Emily. Rita, let's celebrate Yoda-san earning a total of 100 million Piro no Desu. Emily was having a high tension out of nowhere. A party Rita, yes Desu, my mom said that if you have something happy, then celebrate Desu. Emily, I guess that's true, Rita. I nodded, and looked at Emily and friends. Let's have a party tomorrow then, Rita. Yay. All of them nodded at once. The next day, Tururu Dungeon. Today I wanna rest from going to Nonium. And as such I went straight to earning some cash. Today I went by myself, and using repetition defeated everything. The first floor, defeating slimes and getting bean sprouts has earned me 40k. The second floor, defeating drowsy slimes and getting carrots has earned me 40k. Third floor, defeating cockroach slimes and obtaining pumpkins have earned me 40k. Fourth floor, the bat slimes, hunting everything as fast as I could with repetition, and sending the items of using the magic cart. The number was shown at the cart. The total sum was 1,240,000 Piro. I was deeply moved. While hunting I was reminiscing of the past. I could not earn more than 10k a day back when I first came into this world. It took me 3 days to earn my rent of 20k broken up apartment. And from that day, now I could hunt at a fast pace. We accumulated 40k, which is the transfer limit of the magic cart. Once 40k, twice 80k, thrice 120k. Growing little by little, I had the ability to hunt. After the 30th time, the last hunt was at Tururu's first floor. As I thought, the bean sprouts over here. Everything started from this point. A slime was flying towards me and I used repetition, even using repetition on the slimes that were running away. Preemptively firing repetition on a slime that was just about to spawn from the ground. Every time bean sprouts were added, the counter stacked up. Eventually, it went to 40k Piros. Phew. Alright. Rita. Pushing the button for the last time, the 40k Piros were transferred. Today's earnings should have exceeded 1.24 million. With this, I stood up, used the transportation gate to return to the mansion. Oh everyone, Rita. Everyone was waiting for me near the transportation room. Emily, Celeste, Alice, Eve, and Cerberus. Everyone greeted me. Congratulations Nano Desu. Emily. Congrats. Celeste. Grats. Alice. You done it low level. Eve. Congratulations my master. Cerberus. Then, Elsa came over from the corridor. Congratulations Rita-san. You have properly reached 100 million. Elsa. Elsa was holding a bunch of papers. It seemed like she recalculated. The blessings of everyone made me eyes a little hot. My chest gently warmed up. Thanks, everyone. Rita. They surrounded me who just reached 100 million Piros in accumulation, and we celebrated until late this evening. And the next day, we were surprised that a new dungeon was born. Although I am only level 1, but with this unique skill, I am the strongest. Chapter 150. This is bad, Rita-san. Morning. I woke up and wanting to head to the washroom, when suddenly Elsa shouted my name and stopped me in a hurry. I stood still and looked at her direction, as she frantically ran towards me. What's the matter? Did something happen? Rita, another dungeon has been born. Elsa, is that so? Rita, the surprised me was instantly wide awake after hearing about a new dungeon. Is it under Shikoro? Rita, remembering the case about Siren, I asked about it first. Yes, this is now Shikoro's 7th dungeon, Elsa, which means the other cities can't take it then. Rita, the time when Siren appeared, that was troublesome, Elsa, but because of that incident, we got to meet with Celeste. Rita, Celine dungeon, a dungeon that was born right in the middle of Shikoro and Hataro's cities. As it was born right in the middle of the two cities were competing in who could get the rights to the dungeon. In this world, the primary source of production is obtained in dungeons, with whoever controls the dungeon, that city would be able to impose tax on the dungeon. Thus Shikoro and Hataro both fought for the dungeon. And in the midst of it, I was being called by the Dungeon Association's chief as a representative of Shikoro against Hataro. It was quite some time since that last incident. If it's under Shikoro, then there wouldn't be any competition. Rita, yes, and Chief Clint contacted just now. Elsa, is he here now? Rita, yes, he wants the Rita family to be in charge of investigating the newly formed dungeon. The reward of completing this quest is 10 million Pero or so I heard. Elsa, I see. Rita, when I came to this world, I was only a bystander when it came to investigating the dungeon. The request came directly to me first, so I was sort of happy to hear that. The outskirts of Shikoro, in front of the new dungeon, in front of the entrance where KIA board isn't even stationed there, the entire Rita family was standing in front of the new dungeon. Me, Emily, Celeste, Alice, and Eve, the entire party consisting of 5 people. Well then, what would this dungeon be? Rita, the name is Sulfur. This is the only thing I know as of this instance. Celeste, Sulfur. A burnable stone, huh? Rita, do you know about it? Rita, question mark. Celeste, the intelligent one in the family. Celeste was surprised. I've only heard of it from its name. Rita, Sulfur, speaking of its atomic number, it should be 16. If the dungeon has a strong smell surrounding it, it might hard to explore it. That was what I thought while thinking of its name. Do you know anything else? No desu? Emily, I don't know. We are the first investigation team. Celeste, even Eve-chan doesn't know? Alice, Bunny is silent. Eve, the way she speaks was golden, as to be expected. Besides the name, we don't know anything about it. Rita, what should we do? Rita-san, it's dangerous if even I don't know much about it. Celeste, that's true. Rita, I silently thought about it. Let's use the absolute rock, and if anything were to happen, let's deal with it as it comes. Rita, that's a good plan. Celeste, then I'll be the one leading first, then Emily, Alice, and Celeste. The last would be Eve. Rita, Bunny is last. Why? Eve, having the first and last person be the strongest and most experience is better if something were to happen. Rita, I got it. 3 days worth of carrots then. Eve, okay. Rita, after deciding the order of going that we're going in, each of us checked our own equipments. Everyone was holding on to one absolute rock, and on top of that Emily has her hammer, Celeste has her bicorn, and the rest had their equipments and checked them once more. After that was done, let's go, Rita. After voicing out, everyone nodded. After using the absolute rock's invincible mode, only then did I enter. The inside of the dungeon was just big. It felt like a coliseum, or should I call it a dome? Anyways, it's huge. It was uselessly huge for a place. There's no staircase that leads down, only one floor. Then, looking at my surroundings, I soon spotted a monster, a human-shaped monster. Its size was similar to an average male body. The body was green in color, and on its face was one huge eyeball. A Cyclops. Rita, a name came out to match the monster. It wasn't like how I imagined where it was as large as a titan, so I don't know whether to call it a cyclops or not. Well, whatever, let's defeat it first. Taking out my revolvers from, wait, it's gone. My revolvers, which were my main axis of battle, was gone. Where did it go? Did I perhaps dropped it? Question mark. While frantically wondering about it, the cyclops made its first move, moving at a slow pace with a club on its hand. Gashai, as I raised my hands and stopped the club as it swung down towards me. The power was similar to its size, so it wasn't that hard to stop it. As the club is a blunt weapon, my hand was slightly tingling. Wait, tingling? Question mark. Now that I look at it, the invisibility is gone. Even the absolute rock disappeared too. It's not just that. Everything is gone. Even my weapons and items. Besides my clothes, everything else disappeared. A dungeon that restricts holding items? Rita, something came across in my mind. A dungeon that does not allow a single item to be brought into. A difficult dungeon to exploit. It wasn't just that. No one else entered until now. It has been more than a minute since I entered, but I could see none of my friends. So it's not just not being able to bring any items, but I would have to solo it too? I remembered something the Torim once said. A rogue dungeon is quite a meddlesome dungeon to deal with. My thoughts were cut halfway from the roar. The Cyclops tried to push the club further into my hands. I dodged that, and with all my might I strike him with a punch. A body blow right onto the Cyclops' stomach. It seems that my strength is still at SS rank. The Cyclops disappeared, and a corn dropped from where the body disappeared. 1 corn, around 100 biro. Then, something appeared. A door came out from nowhere, and I could see the exit from within the door. From what I remembered, it's the entrance of sulfur. It's blinking. So get out in time. Is that it? Rita, I thought for a moment, and went out for now. Taking the corn, I went out of the dungeon. Yoda-san, Emily, are you alright? Celeste. Emily and Celeste were both there. So the both of you are alright too. Rita, yes Disu. I was panicking. Disu? Emily, what you were panicking was the fact that the hammer that you're holding disappeared, right? Rita, Emily had her hammer on her hands, and my revolvers and bullets were now on me. When it said no item, it really meant it, and once you return they would return along with it. Yes Disu, I was able to defeat the enemy holding a club and return. Disu? Emily, equipments are restricted. Then even Celeste's bicorn too? Rita, yeah, and one more thing, Celeste. Which is? Rita, I can't use Inferno. My mana wasn't enough. Celeste, eh? Rita, though I could use a fireball. Celeste, so even our levels reset when we're inside? Rita, even more things were found about this dungeon. When you're talking about item restrictions, something else would come in a set, and that was a level reset. So no matter how high your level is, once you stepped foot into the dungeon, your level would go back to 1. I can't confirm it 100%, but it should be like that. Then from inside, it was Eve that came out. She had scratches on her cheeks and shoulders. You alright, Eve? Rita, humiliation. Eve, eh? Rita, Bunny has dropped to the same as low level. Eve, ah, so it really was that. Rita, though I didn't ask why. But Eve somehow knew the level of the enemy the moment she looked at it. Then how do I put it? The moment you enter you'll turn into level 1, is that right? Rita, that's exactly right. Bunny will never return here ever again. Eve, I got it. Leave it to me then. Rita, returning back to level 1, now that I knew it for certain, it's plenty enough for information. Then, another information was certain, that my ability did not fall. A dungeon that turns you back to level 1, towards me who was level 1 to begin with. My stats did not decrease whatsoever. In a way, it's a dungeon best suited for me. Even the drop was salty. The item was only worth 100 biro. Rita, it will increase after the second fight. Eve said it with a glowering look on her face. Increased? And what do you mean by the second fight? Rita, a slightly stronger one compared to the first one appears, and once you defeat it the drop doubles. Eve, hey, Rita, the third time would double even further. That's why I got out. Eve, Ito. That means, Rita. I tilted my head, and Eve was rummaging something, took out a nuggie and threw it on the ground. It was a different drop from mine, a nuggie. The amount was around 700 biro. Celeste, that much nano desu? Emily, that's right. There might be some errors here and there. Celeste, Emily and Celeste both agreed. Since everyone had been dungeon crawling for a pretty long time, they could somewhat guess the amount of a drop by looking at it. Mine was a corn, 100 piro worth. Rita, my drop was a cucumber nano desu, same as Yoda-san, 100 piro nano desu. Emily, mine's a shiitake. And as expected it's also 100 biro. Celeste, so the more you hunt the higher the drop and the amount. Rita, that might be it. Celeste, alright, I'll dive in first. Rita, are you gonna be alright nano desu? Emily, well, my initial level is 1, and my stats did not drop. Rita, I see nano desu. Emily, as expected of Rita-san, a dungeon made just for you. Celeste, even though you're a low level, such conceitedness. Eve, being sent of by everyone, I went back into the dungeon. At that time, I'm back. This is amazing Ryo-chan is awesome Alice was radiating with happiness, and brought back a mountain load of tomatoes. Alice, how did you get that much amount? Rita, Ryo-chan is amazing, he soloed everything Alice, soloed everything? Rita, yes, even when Ryo doesn't have a weapon, he's still strong. Alice was extremely happy right now. Ryo-chan, Alice is summoning magic, a summoning magic that allows her to make an exact replica of me, so you don't have to go in again. Celeste, as expected of Yoda-san nano desu? Emily, it was confirmed in an unexpected way. I could clear the entire dungeon. The drop. How many times did you have to fight the monster? Rita, 9 times. Alice immediately replied, a mountain of tomato, and 9 times of drops. I could calculate immediately with the previous assumption from the 2 information. Starting from 100, double the 9th, the sum, so around 10k per round? Rita, I needed further verification as to whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.